Good morning and good day and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, and all existence within and without, and all around and all about. It is such a pleasure to exist. It is such bliss to exist. Oh, that's my voice. It is a lovely experience to be here with you folks. Today is our live stream podcast. I believe that we should be live now. If anybody could say hello, give me a little shake and say hi there. Nice to see you, Dustin. Let me know if you can hear me. I was just on here prattling to myself for the last 10 minutes. Story of my life. But now I can see that we are actually on and we are actually live and people can actually see me now. Story of my life. That's okay, though. Hi. Hello, Earth Angel. Hello, Genius POV. Hello, everybody, everything, everyone. Now, I have to share something with everybody here. This is something that I'm recording now, and I'm going to probably split this video into two, because I have to share with everybody an experience that I just had. Hello, Rogue Reemerged, my sexy friend who just mentioned that you were having a good time before you got on here. Genius POV, it partly was you when you said excited for this one. I was like, you know what? I am not live. And thank you, Genius POV, for being here and alerting me to me just talking to myself. We're all just talking to ourselves sometimes. Now, folks, you're all hanging out with me here live, so I have to move through something. I'm going to begin it. It's going to be an ecstatic experience with everybody here this Sunday. It is Mahashivatri, I believe is the name of it. And we are in Shiva. Welcome to Shiva. Welcome to awareness, which is bliss, which is pure consciousness, which is infinity. Something I would like to share with everybody today is that I just had a very deep experience. I did it, I've done this about like a month ago, but really today it blew the doors open for me. I was blessed to be in the shared heart space of some beloved friends and to experience 5-MeO DMT. It has completely blown the doors off of my reality, as it tends to do. Because, of course, reality is something that is so beyond the doors of perception. Now, today, we're going to have a sweet little existential... Hello? I'm going to express some love from the center of the heart of all things that I've experienced. I wrote a little poem last time I had this experience to kind of rein in what my experience was. And it goes something like this. 5-MeO DMT. How to explain an orange to one unexperienced. Words like sweet cannot convey the sensation. How then to explain transcendental meditation to one uninitiated? The sweetest, untasted orange, beyond the mind's grasping for form and rhyme. The usual suspects of experience, yanked out in front, like an eyeball in one's hand, separate from the seer. Vast sense unbuckled from familiar conditioning. No language can transmit that glossary of galaxies. The inevitable, ineffable, slips out of reason's grip, a slimy toad. Let go your attachment, and it rests in your palm, a Cheshire cat with its own curious agenda. The worm out of term laughs at its own laughing. Telescopic ohm groves echo within, and suddenly the universe blinks at you. A strange, familiar hello. Mother, father, closer, farther, all at once and everywhere. This experience was held for me by a dear friend of mine in Toronto. And afterwards, we went and did a podcast. And you'll be able to check out the link to this podcast. It was a 2-hour podcast riffing on the same stuff that I'm riffing on right now. It's 2 hours of it. It was a delicious time. I was there with my girlfriend, and I dissolved. I died. Glad to be here. It's beautiful. So, I've always gone on these psychedelic evangelist trips. And I'm somebody who is so grounded in yoga. And yoga is such a beautiful center of it all. So, from this trip, I've written some things as well. And I'm going to go through them here, folks, because I think that this is also worth sharing as well. It's the poetry of cosmos, isness. Dustin's rules for realizing perfect bliss. Rule number 1. Pain and fear are inevitable, and they are worth acknowledging, but they are not worth dwelling upon. Rule number 2. Happiness and pain exist perfectly and are worth acknowledging, but are not worth dwelling upon. Rule number 3. The brain is a reducing valve for the infinite host of awareness. Within the brain's Maya memory, the subject conditions their reality according to their known reality. When you experience beyond the threshold of your reality, the subject, you see everything as it is, beyond the doors of perception. Perfect, filterless, conditionless, infinitely blissful. And that is worth dwelling upon. What a gift it is to exist. What a gift it is to carry God's love, to be God's love, to be God. Where am I not? I love you so. I love you so. Parvati and Shiva, energy and awareness. I am love. I am such love. We are love. I love you. Love, love, love. Isness, isness, isness. It sure as hell ain't not. Who said that? God, God, God. How can this be anything other than the infinite? Existence is perfect. Existence is perfect. Existence is perfect. Ananda, Ananda. I was literally like lying on my friend's floor, slamming my fist into the ground, yelling at the top of my lungs, Ananda! Existence is perfect! It was very wonderful to remove the filter of self and other and to just be in the beeness. And I'm very thankful and happy to the people who hosted that experience for me. It'll be called The Link Below, and you can probably find it in this video. You'll be able to see the podcast that we did on this in coming time, whenever it all comes through with our video editing people. And I am very thankful to everybody here. It is beautiful to exist. It's so easy to forget that. And thank you to everybody, Stephen the Jupiterian, Susie Underwood, Rogue Reemerge, Genius POV, Earth Angel, and so many people who I am blessed to have experiencing existence with me, whether close to me or through this internet experience that I get to host. I'm so happy. That is my DMT rant, folks. I'm happy to have shared it, and I hope that you all enjoyed it. Peace, love, isness, love, love, love. Now, I'm glad I got that out of the way. I believe that I'm going to probably make that into a separate video, what I just did, because I think that I needed to share that. Hi, Teresa. Clara says she's playing piano on some of the words that I've been riffing here, and I'm glad to hear that. I think something about the Scorpio in me was just so full of energy as I was screaming love while I was on the floor of my friend's flat in Toronto. And I'm glad to exist. Now, everybody, thank you so much for your patience. We are going to now slip into the reason why everybody's here. We are here today to discuss the archetype of Pisces through the embodiment of a woman. Now, I'm going to probably start this video from this point on. So let's thank you everybody for being here. I'm going to do one more introduction, and then we're going to get on with the show. I love you. Thank you. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, and everything everywhere, in and out and all around. Hello, Vishnu. Hello, Shiva. Hello, Parvati. Hello, my love. It's a pleasure to have you here with me today. Today is another episode of How to Rock Astrology, and in particular today, we are going to be discussing Sextrology, the astrology of sex and the sexes, by Starsky and Cox. I'm very glad and blissful to have you guys here today. I believe it's Shivarti. It is a day of celebrating Shiva, celebrating awareness, celebrating existence. And I'm fired up about it, folks. So hopefully this should be a fun and exciting and ecstatic experience in delving into the nature of Pisces, which is very nebulous, very blissful. It is the feminine side of Jupiter. Jupiter in Sagittarius gives, and Jupiter through Pisces receives. And the Jupiterian optimism that we often convey is an extremely profound thing to see being experienced in a receptive way. The Pisces experience is very important for all of us. It is related to the 12th house. It is related to the end of things, and also the beginning of things that exists ever behind the end of things. Pisces, in a lot of ways, resonates with Parvati, with all the feminine goddess energy that we know of as the cosmos and the goddesses of the Hindu pantheon. Behind the Big Bang of Shiva, who was there minding the store? Before Shiva erupted with Aries-like volcanic existence, who was holding the bag? It was the goddess Parvati. It was the sweet existence that exists prior to existence. And it takes a certain receptivity to feel this in your experience. This is a bliss that belongs to all things Pisces. To Pisces men, as well as to Pisces women, with the sun sign there. Really, Pisces is in all of our charts, even if you have no planets there. And it's just blissfully delicious and fun to talk about. Now, in today's video, we are moving through the paces of what it means to experience Pisces through the embodied gender of womanhood. Now, everybody who knows me on my channel, I'm somebody very sympathetic to the non-binary experience and to someone who identifies as genderless or sexless. By doing a video like this, I invite anybody who embodies womanhood, whether it's something true to you or whether it's an experience that you put on like a delicious article of clothing and you go out and you experience womanhood and you have Pisces archetypes in you. This reading caters to the existence of womanhood through the archetype of Pisces sun for all who are experiencing it. Hope that worked out the way I explained that there. We are going to be moving through Pisces sun woman today. And I'm going to talk a little bit in my own sort of psychedelic, poetic way about Pisces. Again, especially Pisces being the feminine aspect of Jupiter. We have to consider that in the Vedic understanding of things, before there was Neptune, there was Jupiter. And Jupiter is considered in all systems to be the true ruler of Pisces. So because Jupiter is the true ruler of Pisces, I often find that Pisces, all Pisces placements are a lot more groovy and a lot more swanky and a lot more blah. I think people think that Pisces is mute. People think because they correlate Pisces with the 12th house. And in Vedic astrology, Pisces and the 12th house, the houses are a very different thing than the signs. The signs are the cosmos, the cosmic space of embodiment. The houses are how we filter and perceive the space that is created by the Jyoti of the sun and the earth's movement around it. That's the Rashis, that's the signs. The signs are embodied space. And Pisces is a deliciously embodied space being ruled by the receptive dimension of Jupiter. I would say the best description of Pisces is something like this. It is no particular form, but all the forms. It is all of it, all of it, all of it, all of it. And it's expressive as that. So, because Pisces is this expressive, receptive side of an expressive planet, Jupiter. Jupiter is one of the masculine planets. It gives of itself without even trying. It is even said that the sun moves around its barycenter. The sun actually has a little bit of a wobble. And this is one of the reasons why life can exist in our universe. Because the sun has actually got this sort of spin that gets the whole, it's like a little finger inside of a pool. It's just spinning this little bit that makes that whirlpool effect, and that makes all the other planets spin. And part of the reason why the sun moves around its barycenter is because of Jupiter. In fact, scientists that are looking for life on other planets look for the sun of a galaxy. There's so many galaxies, so many stars to look at. Where do you start? Well, where they look is for suns that have this wobble, because that means there's a Jupiter. Because Jupiter, as Ernst Wilhelm describes it, it's there before the sun. It is an extremely psychedelic and important aspect of life in any galaxy. It's the pot stirrer. It's Guruji. It is Ganesha. So Jupiter is a masculine planet. It's one of the first ones there in the cosmic pantheon of selfhood. And this is why in the Vedic literature, Jupiter is ruled by, it is conveyed by the deity called Indra. And what does Indra carry? Does anybody know? I'll just give you short thrift here, folks. Indra's great weapon is a thunderbolt. Something very psychedelic to that, if you understand it. This is the same reason why Jupiter is considered to rule astrology. It is the intuition. It is the ether chakra, really the throat chakra. It is the arbiter of ether, of space. Space exists because self exists, because self exists because space exists. And Jupiter is a part of that spinning of the whirlpool of I amness. And Zeus is conveyed by the archetype of Jupiter. And Zeus was said to be on the top of Mount Olympus in the Greek archetypal pantheon. Zeus ruled over all the planets, all consciousness, and he wielded a thunderbolt, just like Indra did in the Vedic literature. Indra is regarded as the most highly important arbiter of consciousness. When you understand Indra, it comes from the same word that we use for the Indriyas. That is the synapse of awareness that experiences the sense data coming into our brains, because the brain is a filtering valve. And beyond the filtering valve of the brain, there is pure awareness. Jupiter is our connection to our own filtration of what existence is. In Sagittarius, we move forward towards our experience of what existence is beyond our filtering brains. In Pisces, we optimistically receive what existence is beyond our filtering brains. Sorry, I'm really in it right now. So Pisces is a very important archetype for everybody. And to have the sun in Pisces means that your identity, your Atma, your solar energy, is moving through this swanky, receptive side of this primordial patriarch of the cosmos, of Jupiter, this the primordial masculine planet. The reason that the thunderbolt is such an important metaphor is because in Vedic times, thunder needed to happen. There's this ferment of creative power that would blister through the atmosphere and cause the rains to come. When we hear in the Bible of Gnosis, of Jesus talking about, if you drink from this water, you will never be thirsty again. He's talking about the experience of our energy field moving through the Indriyas, up the spine, up the evolutionary passageways to the Pingala of the root chakra, moving up into the Pingala inside the pineal gland, the third eye, where the truth of existence can be conveyed through the individual human experience if you know where the keys are and if you know how to tap into those experiences. In my impression, Kriya Yoga has been the most concise transmitter of that for me, even more than psychedelics, I will have you know. If anyone's interested, my teacher teaches Kriya Yoga online in an apprenticeship, and I recommend it for anyone who's interested in the really seeing behind the veil of things. But I digress. Jupiter is very important, and Pisces is very important as the receptive dimension of Jupiter, as the capacity inside of all of us to be receptive to the experience of what existence is beyond the filtering of our brains. Beyond our karma, beyond the sun, there is just pure Shiva, pure Guruji, pure Ganesha. So the experience of Pisces for a woman is a very special thing. Now, I've just given a little bit of my own spontaneous poetry about all this stuff. And it's wonderful to see my friends talking about the blissful experiences that they have been having with Pisces archetypes. Now, before we get into this, I always read a little bit from a beloved book called Decoding the Zodiac with Vedic Astrology. You should be able to find a link for this in the comments section. I might not have put it there yet, but it should be there by the time this video is out there. This is a student of Ernst Wilhelm. His name's Pratyush Bhattacharya. Cool, enigmatic guy, very mathematically minded, and he has this wonderful way of conveying all the planets inside the signs. That's what he did in this book. So, of course, today we're going to be looking up interactions of the sun with Pisces. Now, there are general principles for interpreting the sun inside of a sign. These are the general principles for interpreting the sun inside of a sign. Okay, so, you know, there's so much to astrology, and we are just talking about the sun sign here. And the sun sign is very important. It is the gripper, as we're going to talk about. The sun is the center of it all. Really, we could say the Earth is the center and that all the planets are so important. This is how the Vedic people consider it. Vedic astrology takes us far beyond just sun sign astrology because we are the energy of the sun. We are the energy of the sun in its sign. But the energy of the sun in its sign, outside the context of all the other things in astrology, it's like saying, you know, I am bliss. Of course, I am the sun. I am Atma. But what is the quality of that bliss? What is the life that bliss is moving through? That is contained within all the planets of the energy field, all of existence. And so the sun, as the primordial essence of what we are, is moving through the experience of its sign and all the other things, its house, all the other aspects to it, are all a part of it. But the sun is very important. Now, I do want to say while I'm here, I almost forgot, and I'm sorry that I'm only just saying this now. My friend Earth Angel asked if I was going to do Scorpio Woman. And I have done Scorpio Woman, Earth Angel. If you look up on my other channel, it's called Dustin Cormier Yoga now. I'm going to be eventually doing more yoga, DMT, psychedelic stuff on there. You should find it on there. You can just look it up on YouTube. Just look up Scorpio Woman Sextrology, Dustin Cormier. Should come up. And thank you for requesting that, Earth Angel. So let's dive a little bit into what is it like when the sun is in a sign. As the sun is the ultimate source of power in the solar system, the sign inhabited by the sun is also the primary source that powers our identity. While the moon creates the sense of individual identity, the sun determines how brightly that identity shines. Quite psychedelic, in my opinion. Our mastery over the sun's sign determines how efficiently we can draw our attention to the radiance of our unique personality. The brighter our identity shines, the easier it becomes to establish a life where we get to make our own rules. In the modern world, that typically manifests as a successful and inspiring career driven by an original and pioneering approach. This is the sun at its best, and this is why that pioneering, I'm experiencing my reality the way I want it to. It's very typical of, like the sun exalted in Aries. The sun being exalted in Aries shows that the sun is the one, and we create our kingdom based on the experience of the bliss and joy that we have in existing in our own nature. And wherever the sun is in our chart, if it is well placed, if it has good interactions with its sign lord, and all other planets, and in its angles in the horizon, etc., in the houses, the better that position is, the more life conspires to unfold the bliss that is inside of all of us in a harmonious way, in a way that we can positively have easy momentum and energy going forward to do the things that we want to do, that we truly want to do. And not everybody's sun is the most powerful planet in their chart. But of course, all of us have the energy. All the planets are being lit by the Jyoti of the sun. They are all light. So all of us are experiencing the bliss of what we are, even if we don't have the strongest sun. I actually don't have the greatest and strongest sun in my chart. When you regard what's called Shadbala, and when you see the way my sun is placed, the total Shadbala percent is not as strong as it really could be. But I am still bliss. By God, by howdy. And so this is how we have to consider that, is that the sun, like all the other planets, whether it's positioned properly or well or not, it is still the karma that we are living through. And if we see that we are the existence, the pure awareness, looking objectively at the karma, the past life karma that we've experienced, then we can treat it without attachment and see that it is perfect just as it is, even when some people have more difficult sun karma than other people. Because we probably have some positive karma on some other planet that keeps us ticking in the flow of the universe and life. And just as the Bhagavad Gita says, it's better to suffer in your own dharma than to be superficially happy in someone else's. It's a psychedelic thing that comes from the Bhagavad Gita. Because ultimately, we are not we do not own our results of our actions. All that we can account for in ourselves is the actions themselves. And you can't hope for it to take any particular form. All you can do is move through it. So we all have to consider this. You know, the Vedic people often do say that there are harder and easier placements for each planet. The sun is going to do better. You know, I've shown everybody in all my videos that I do. I often like to describe to people this idea of the the two dimensions of planets. There's the fire and water planets, and then there's the earth and air planets. Now I'm going to dig for a moment and see if I can find exactly what I'm trying to say. I always have pictures to try and kind of bring together what it is that I'm saying. Here we go. Thank you for your patience, everybody. It's in here somewhere. So, here we have a picture that you've probably seen me show 100,000 times on my channel. There's the fire and water signs, Sun, Moon, Mars, and Jupiter. Sun rules what? Leo. The Moon rules Cancer. Mars rules Aries and Scorpio. Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Pisces. So this is one grouping. Then we have the Earth and Air planets. Libra and Taurus for Venus. Gemini and Virgo for Mercury. Aquarius and Capricorn for Saturn. When a planet falls into the side that it likes to be in, it's generally going to be sitting with its friends. And it's not always, these rules aren't perfectly perfect, but in the sun's case, it follows through. If the sun is in any of these spaces, it will be in the sign of a friend. Because the sun's friends, I should be using Leo for this. Let's see, the sun's friends are... For some reason, this is giving me Venus. Why? Oh, well, shucks. Venus. Nope. It's not going to give it to me. That's okay, folks. So, the sun's friends, as we can see from the picture that we've got here, the sun's friends are Mars, Jupiter, and the moon. So when the sun is in any of these signs, it is going to be like a gardener who gets to only focus on gardening. When the sun is a gardener and you put him in a garden, all he needs to do is what he is. My cat just barreled in. I'm sure he's going to make himself known on my podcast in just a few moments, unless he goes and hangs out. We'll see. So when the sun is in a sign like Pisces, ruled by the sun's friend Jupiter, because the sun is one of the masculine grahas, the sun is in the sign of Pisces, this is a positive placement for the sun. I'm happy to say, ladies and gentlemen. So, since we are rolling with the sun being in Pisces, we can see that there is a blissful nature that we're going to be experiencing here. Of course, this is just the sun in its sign. There's still much more to convey in terms of what makes a good or a bad placement of the sun. But by sign, we are on a positive expression here. And that's always a nice start to things. So we need to use, because the sun is the only source of light in the solar system, the sign that it inhabits enables us to shine most authentically. We naturally tend to use this sign with a certain originality and in confidence. This arises from the illuminating clarity of the sun's radiance. So whatever Pisces is, it's like a space on its own, as a sign in whatever house Pisces represents to the rising sign as well. The sun is using the earth, the ground of Pisces, to convey what the sun's doing inside its house. And it needs to use all things Pisces as well as Jupiter, the dispositor, to convey how it is. And so the placement of Jupiter is going to really be important to the experience of this person, because this person is using what's supposed to be the archetype of Jupiter. And let's say Jupiter is an ecstatic, blissful wanderer. And if the Jupiter is well placed, this person will allow themselves to tap into that giddy, happy, I am happy doing what happiness is for me. A person with a good Jupiter, regardless of whether the sun's in Pisces or not, a person with a good Jupiter will find that unleaded letting go and surrendering into the bliss of what they are, if they have a good Jupiter. Having the sun in Pisces, such a person with a good Jupiter would be allowed to manifest a kingdom out of the bliss that they experience and the love that they share and experience. Someone with a more difficult Jupiter still has the sun in Pisces, and it's still a positive placement for the sun, at least. And they're going to use that blissful, ecstatic nature to help rein in whatever is lost on the Jupiter. Jupiter being an enemy sign, being aspected by its enemies, which is Venus and Mercury. Or if it's conjunct Saturn, if it's in the sign of Capricorn, if it's in the 7th house, it prefers to be in the 1st house. There's many things that can convey difficulty with a Jupiter. Having the sun in Pisces will force you to build a kingdom that will rein in what Jupiter represents. And this will be what the experience is. It is what it is, man. So we tend to pursue the sun sign with a certain pride, honesty, and dignity derived from the sacrifices we make. We are naturally honest and uncompromising when performing any activity utilizing the sun sign, because you can't compromise the self. You can't compromise what the self is unless you want to compromise what you are to existence and the energy the power that you have. You can't express the sun's radiance if you compromise the self. And that's why we use the sun in this way. This is why people with Leo placements, with sun at Makarka, have this stern function. They are Shiva. They are creators of what they want in their reality. If the sun is healthy, the radiance with which we shine naturally inspires people to follow us into the kingdom we are building. Therefore, mastery over the sun's sign makes us natural leaders in situations where its particular abilities are useful. And this is how we become leaders, is through the sign that the sun is in. Everybody wants to be a leader, and we can't all lead everything. What we can do is rest in the nature of ourselves and lead from there. So, let's talk a little bit about Pisces sun. And again, this is still coming from Decoding Zodiac with Vedic Astrology by Bhattacharya. What do we read when we talk about the Pisces sun interaction? Pisces enables us to look beyond the thin veil of physical reality and access the intangible and abstract dimensions of nature that do not follow the limited rules of human logic. Symbolized by fishes deep in the ocean, this sign enables us to dive deep into our subconscious, to get in touch with the intelligence of the collective unconscious, which often leads to amazing and groundbreaking conceptual insights about the very nature of reality, life, and death. Wow, Genius POV is just letting us know that they have 5 Pisces placements. Oh, it's so nice to see so many Pisces people. And Susie is riffing on what I'm agreeing with, which is there are so many blissful Pisces people that I know as well. It's a very mystical sign and a mystical place to have the sun. So it's very interesting what we read is that there is a tendency of Pisces to be so dripping with nectar that because of the ecstatic nature of Pisces, they can drift, they can wind, and they can find bliss in a way that keeps them from seeing outside of their own nature, which is really saying that you're not seeing your own nature. So it's good for all Pisces to open their hearts and to be in the experience of life, because you can drift internally having the sun in Pisces. And this is something that Bhattacharya is going to talk a little bit about. Because the sun is such a masculine planet, Pisces is a receptive sign, and so there will be some possible kingdom building that is lost in potential aspects of the sun. Again, ultimately, if the sun and Jupiter are well placed for this person, there really won't be much obstruction. But for anybody who, for most of us are going to have regular planets. They're going to either be suffering a little bit, or they're not going to be so perfectly placed that it's going to be an easy ride. For Pisces people, we do have to hold the bowl of experience together. Of course, you've got to do it in the way that feels good to you. Sometimes there will be ecstatic people who just live that ecstasy and they can ride with it. Some people need to rein in that ecstasy and live it, not just experience it, but also engage themselves in a Shiva way with that experience. And Pratyush is going to tell us a little bit about this. So, the following traits are typically observed in a personality crafted by the Pisces-Sun interaction. There's a natural tendency in a Pisces-Sun to avoid mundane material affairs and strongly identify with the imaginative, mystical, spiritual, and other such aspects of life that hints at a level of reality that is fundamentally non-physical. There's a natural interest and clarity about psychology, mysticism, spirituality, philosophy, space-time, and the abstract aspects of existence in general. It's really quite beautiful. This can make for a philosophically minded person and someone who makes a good creative writer, or someone who can really just delve into any experience of life with the experience of what lies beyond it. So long as the experience of what lies beyond life doesn't stop you from living life. My Pisces friends, don't forget that. That's why I choose yoga first and psychedelics second. Pisces Sun has a strong and clear conviction that physical reality is just an illusion, produced by the limited nature of human perception. The brain is a filtering valve. The stronger this conviction in them, the harder one tries to escape the shackles of their material existence. Depending on the environment, the desire to escape the mundane may manifest as spiritual practices, studying and practicing psychology, especially Jungian, which involves the collective unconscious, creating and exploring worlds of fantasy, magic, science fiction, or using psychedelics to forcibly induce altered states of consciousness. My guy, ain't that funny? I know a little bit of what that's all about. Now, Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, the ruling graha of the space element. Therefore, Pisces enables us to understand and explore the very fabric of nature, especially if it involves geometry, which is essentially the study of space using shapes and their properties. Psychedelic. Pisces sun produces a natural intelligence of understanding spatial geometry and its connection with space-time, because ether, Jupiter rules ether and space. A great example of such a personality which was produced by this interaction of the sun with Pisces is Albert Einstein, who drastically changed the way we interpret the universe with his groundbreaking insight about the flexibility and curvature of space-time. Wonderful. That's just so right on. It's wonderful to think that, of space, the way that Pratyush, this guy's really good, the way he kind of scratches into these basic fundamentals of existence as it relates to astrology. And of course, he is using astrology as his guru and merely conveying, he's blowing the dust off a book that was already there. As we know from the eternal Sanskrit truth of Veda and of the archetypes of the unconscious that exist prior to existence. Now, to finish up here, and then I'm just going to poke around on my questions. Pisces' ability to perceive and explore a reality beyond the physical makes Pisces sun uninterested in physical affairs of establishing an empire. This does bode a difficulty for what the sun is trying to do as a manifester and creator of the self in the embodied material 666 world. We try to fulfill the sun's desire of gaining autonomy in Pisces by escaping into the fantastic, infinite, and eternal world of abstraction. Therefore, Pisces sun often produces the best out-of-the-box creative minds with unbridled imaginative faculties. The world often learns to revere Pisces sun for their creative prowess and unorthodox thinking, which certainly helps them gain attention and climb up hierarchies. However, their natural tendency to escape from the material affairs of life does not interest them in power or recognition. In fact, often they want to gain power and money in order to find a cozy corner of the world where they can spend their life escaping into the non-physical. Therefore, Pisces is compatible with the sun because it enables us to produce original insights. But it has incompatibility because it does not want to be involved with the material world at all, overall. So overall, Pratyush Bhattacharya considers this interaction to be a mixed one. Not necessarily entirely and inherently auspicious and conducive to the agenda of the sun, but not necessarily completely obstructing it. This is like a gardener who's in a garden and loves gardening, but just has this internal experience of knowing that any garden that I can feel with my hands is not as special as the garden that I can feel with my soul, which is within and beyond all material reality. But they still garden. And the experience of Pisces is one of a very special type of suffering. They move through, and nothing is ever as exquisite as the consciousness that is being held by the bowl of reality. But the consciousness is there for them. And there are times where they just have to let go of the light show and look within the darkness inside themselves and see that they are infinite light. And then they have to come out and suffer to experience the darkness of Maya, which is never as bright, but is still it. Even though it's all a dream, we are experiencing the dream. Pisces has to move through these feelings of meaninglessness and nihilism. But if they're lucky enough to have a good Jupiter, to find yogic, Jupiterian, engaged expressions of surrender in the infinite, then the infinite bleakness of this world is infinitely exactly what needs to be done in each moment. Perfectly imperfect. And this is a consciousness that all Pisces people have to slip into somehow. So it's interesting that Pratyush gives it this concise reading. Overall, because the sun is in the sign of a friend here, I would ultimately convey it as being a good thing. But again, ultimately, it really depends on the positioning of the sun according to astrology in general. Now, I'm just poking around here and just checking out what everybody's saying. My friends are all hanging out here. Beautiful. Just talking about the love. Teresa's talking about the sun, what it all means. RMASB is talking about some things that they've been going through. Lead where you're strong is a good way to convey what the sun is all about, I would say. I hope Genius POV is okay with everything you got going on here. I'm glad to hear you are continuing to find balance in all things in life, just like we all are. Looks like it's Stephen's, almost Stephen the Jupiterian's birthday. Very happy to be hearing that. We're talking about Irene Lyon on here. Living through daydreams instead of reality. It's an interesting way to put things. Perfectly imperfect. So I'm glad to hear everybody is having a good time and hanging out and riffing with me. Now, this experience thus far has been very typical of Dustin in some ways. In other ways, it has been completely ecstatically electric. And that is how things roll around here, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the next thing we're going to be talking about is for all my Pisces sign ladies here who are hanging out with us, as well as anybody who has loved ones who embody the feminine experience through the archetype of the sun in Pisces. And, of course, this is a Western book that we're going to be reading. This is Sextrology, the astrology of sex and the sexes. And I feel like now that we're coming into this book, we're going to be getting into a little bit more just grounded reading, really. I always start off with my own kind of experience of psychedelic Piscean things. From here, we're going to ground and just discuss what I have in this book, because that's what I love conveying what's in this book, and that's what we're all here to do today, is to experience what Pisces is like at its sexiest. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Our friend S.A. says, I adore being a Pisces because I find that when I look at a flower, I can see a whole world inside it, almost like I can feel into the flower, and I'm mesmerized. Beautiful. Wonderful experience of what Pisces is. Aho. So, it's been a pleasure rocking and rolling with you folks. Now we are going to actually start getting into Pisces woman. I will thank you all dearly and truly for your patience as I have been experiencing and discussing my consciousness and the pure existence and consciousness of love. I love, I am love, and I love you all. It feels very nice to be able to be sharing space with all of you here today. For all of you watching live and everybody who watches me afterwards. Existence is bliss. Existence is perfect. Now let's start talking about Pisces woman. Genius POV is asked what sign my girlfriend is. I am a Scorpio sun and she is a Virgo sun. My pretty, sweet, earthy Virgo lady. And she's Scorpio rising, interestingly. Something I just wrote to my girlfriend. She did this experience with me. Something I said to her was, thank you for being love, and thank you for being my love. Now, let us dip and dive into the archetype of the beautiful Pisces woman. This is coming from a Western book, Sextrology, the astrology of sex and the sexes. It's one of my favorite books, made by these swanky folks who lived in New York for a while. They were kind of just this very upbeat sort of like couple. Starsky and Cox are this sort of couple. I don't know if they were together or whatever. I think they're just very savvy people who have great, deep psychological understandings of really a Greek-centered sun sign astrology. They talk about the archetypes of the Greeks and of all the things related to the sign. And what's especially beautiful about this book is the experience and the expression of womanhood or manhood, and how this changes the experience and the alchemy of our experience of a sun sign. It's special to see something like Pisces woman because womanhood is feminine and Pisces is feminine. So a Pisces woman is going to have a different experience than a Pisces man, and that's what this book is all about. It is the astrology of sex and the sexes. It's beautiful. So let's, consider this reading as so many readings that we do to not only be an exposition of Pisces, but to also be an exposition of womanhood in the many ways that it unfurls itself according to our given authors. Our book calls Pisces woman the dream. Ain't that the truth? Though she is the last lady in the Zodiac, Pisces is astrology's undisputed prima donna. The proverbial every woman, she is the culmination and an often chilling compilation of all the other women who come before her on the star wheel. Pisces is a walking, talking paradox. All virtue and all vice wrapped up in one deceivingly demure package. She is at once victimized by and victorious over life. An empath of the first order, Pisces personalizes experience to such a degree that she is incapable of separating her emotions from even the most removed circumstance. She is drama personified, making a fuss over her every feeling and impression. Existence is a loaded affair for Pisces, for the Pisces woman, overwhelming to her impressionable, high-strung nature. Then again, she will seem tough as nails, a true survivor who grows through even the most negative of experience. And truth be told, Pisces has more than her fair share of hard knocks. Still, she is a cultivated creature, and regardless of the conditions of her upbringing, there will always be something decidedly high-hat to her countenance. She craves solitude, yet her escapist instincts ironically require others to do her bidding. Thusly, she maintains a necessary connection to the world. Though, in her youth, she is attracted to sensitive, callow fellows who are even more fragile than she. Pisces woman will eventually settle down with an assiduous man who will greet her like a princess, providing emotional sanctuary and proper pampering. With the example of a bisexual or lesbian Pisces woman, when a Pisces woman is seeking other women, she is at once acutely submissive and withholding of her affections, inspiring a partner to constantly please and appease her. Beautiful. The dream. What a wonderful experience it is to see somebody living the Pisces experience. Yeah, so Rogue reemerged as saying that she has to get this book, and I'm with you on it. This book is very special, and I'm glad to be able to move through it with you folks here. So the book breaks down into like 3 different sections. There's sign and mind. Then the next section after that, I believe it's body and soul. Let's see, it's going to be in here somewhere. Yeah, there's sign and mind, and then there's body and soul, and then there is the sex and sexuality section. We're going to begin diving into the sign and mind of Pisces woman. From the perspective of astrological evolution, one could easily begin this book not with a chapter on Aries man, but with one on Pisces woman. The sign represents the alpha and the omega, whereas Aries guy embodies the energy of birth, his sign being associated with the age group of 0 to 7. The Pisces woman embodies the zodiacal age group of 77 to 84, which represents the advent of death. The eternal beginning is death. Pisces woman is rather likened to the primordial soup from which life springs, Parvati, Mahashakti. Whether individually in the womb or on a universal scale, the teething slime from whence the first organisms slithered. Who was there before the Big Bang, minding the store? Pisces is the only mutable water sign in the zodiac, thus pointing to, amongst other interpretations, the concept of a quintessential sea of change. Fittingly, planet Neptune, named for the Roman god of the sea, Greek Poseidon, primarily presides over Pisces, while planet Jupiter is considered the sign's secondary ruler. Of course, this is a Western writer. I would switch these and say that Neptune is a secondary adjunct of Pisces. And personally, I often say, as a tropical Vedic astrologer, that the 12th house is more conducive to the archetypes of Neptune, whereas Pisces is more conducive truly to the archetypes of Jupiter. There is a difference there, but I've gone through a lot of this in this book, and I understand the consciousness that they're getting at here. As cross-cultural instigators, such as I am at least on my channel, we have to abide when we are trying to read into the depths of the elements of one traditional system, like Western astrology, and it might contradict some of the things we read in the traditional concepts of the Vedic. But somewhere between them is the truth. And sometimes we have to experience the black, even though it doesn't have the white and it feels incomplete. But then we experience the white and we know it's incomplete, but it doesn't have the black. But after we surrender to the experience of being in the duality of both, we can experience the oneness that is within the two. That's what we do on my channel. Welcome to How to Rock Astrology. So there is a interweaving of the archetypes of Neptune in Pisces, of course. The trident glyph of Neptune is the illustration of a holy trinity of sorts, which, in the case of Pisces woman, reflects the manifestation of the triple goddess. Ancient female deities traditionally took triple form. All things in threes, love, love, love. And whereas all the female signs that precede Pisces on the wheel generally draw on one or sometimes two specific aspects of any given goddess archetype, Pisces metaphorically derives her persona from the triplicate form of the goddess: virgin, mother, and crony, all at once. Though watered down into the lovely Greek goddess of love, who emerged from the sea foam on that infamous half-shell, parentless or fathered by Uranus, whose semen fertilized the waters upon his castration, Aphrodite, Roman Venus, was originally the great goddess or sea mother, recognized in triple manifest, who ruled birth, life, and death, as well as the province of love. She is also called Mari, who took the form of a giant fish, and is thus synonymous with the Christian Mary, meaning sea, who appears in triplicate at, for instance, the death and burial of Christ. Borrowing from this weighty archetype, Pisces' status as the Zodiac's every woman shouldn't be taken lightly. She is at once as beatific as the Madonna, worldly wise as the Magdalene, and mysterious as that other Mary who unpredictably pops in and out of biblical lore. So, the actual manifestation of Pisces' archetypal legacy is practically palpable. First of all, as anyone familiar with the fish lady will readily admit, she is no easy personality to pin down. Pisces lady is at turns warm, aloof, accessible, untouchable, dignified, petty, righteous, and unscrupulous. She can be an emotional rock 1 second and seemingly ready to snap the next. She is the best of friends and a backstabbing bitch. Well, I suppose anybody could be that, but I understand what this is getting at because of the openness to the synapses of reality that Pisces tends to. She is the best of friends and a backstabbing bitch. And as her yin-yang, opposite-facing fish glyph suggests, she is opposites fused into an irrepressible singularity. Curiously, just like life, and I should say anybody with any placements has the ability to be as perfectly blissful as existence is beyond the astral spheres. You know, when we read stuff like this in a book like this, I think it's a little brass to say this whole thing that we just mentioned. She's the best of friends and a backstabbing bitch. I think that's a little bit brass, but life is brass. And that's why I'm just going to read what the author has to say here. So, indeed, Pisces is a living testament to there being good and bad in everything and everyone. Such opposites being inextricably linked. Life and everybody living it, she reminds us, expresses this same paradox. She may be thus equally lovable and despicable, just as any respectable diva should be, especially when they're young, the Pisces woman. Like a mermaid or siren singing her mesmerizing song, which sees those drawn to it dashed upon the rocks or drowned. Pisces woman is the most enticing and enchanting of all creatures, but she can be incredibly difficult, if not dangerous, to navigate. Indeed, Neptune represents the principle of dissolution and the world of illusions, enchantment, imagery, and life lived on the metaphoric, imaginary plane. The 12th astrological house under Neptune's rule is likewise that of, amongst other attributes, sustained subjectivity, which connotes a sort of dream state, an ongoing trance or delusion. Welcome to Pisces woman's world. Water represents emotions and impressions, as well as love and a feminine source of divinity. And our mutable fish woman is a swirling mass of subjective notions and contemplative imaginings. On one level, she can be rather self-delusional, fancying truths about herself. Some might call it lying, albeit so convincingly that she can't help but believe them herself, for better or worse. In fact, each time the Pisces recounts the same tale, and she does repeat herself, the plot invariably thickens, the tension builds, and her role in the drama becomes that much more exaggerated and exalted. I think that's beautiful. I think that that's an experience of consciousness unable to remove itself from the engagement with the experience. Sometimes that can be hard. I'm for it as a Scorpio. I love Pisces so much. I'm so about all of this. You know, sometimes ultimately how a person is just a matter of the nature of the person perceiving that person. As a Scorpio, I love Pisces with all the craziness that we're reading about here. Some of my best friends are Pisces, and I just love them to pieces. Happy to just be saying that, you know. But I'll keep to my script here. Pisces woman approaches her relationship with the world from an inside-out perspective, by trusting in her own insights rather than any hard and fast external facts to corroborate or disprove these views. She exercises this metaphoric muscle more than most people, which is why the sign often boasts psychics among its ranks. To the Piscean female mind, practice in extrasensory perception makes perfect. Those intimately associated with the fish will forever applaud or poo-poo her ability to search and extract the contents of a person's psyche. Indeed, she does so soul to soul, keying into one's spiritual conscience, reading that person's energy, infiltrating by tapping into and channeling others' still, small voices. Her ability to recognize and speak to one's emotional or moral condition may be uncanny, as an encounter with Pisces woman is often nothing short of cathartic, because you're experiencing the mirror of what your self is. And it's such a true experience. It's just so, that extrasensory perception I find in Pisces women, especially if they have things that are grounding them to that. I find a lot of Pisces women, all of them, I think, have this extrasensory perception. Really, all women, all humans have this thing. But since the brain is a filtering valve, different people are going to focus on aspects of reality that will take them away from that Jupiterian optimistic reception of that which is permeating all around us. I think all people have it, but all Pisces have it in particular. All women have it in particular. And all Pisces women, I think I can understand why they mention this as being a phenomenon of Pisces woman. And furthermore, I think some Pisces women have it more than others, this extrasensory perception. It really depends on whether you want to access the energy that is beyond the filter valve of the survival-oriented brain. And those people who can break the fourth wall and see beyond the drama and the play and delve purely into the energy of other people can become powerful empaths and powerful psychic healers. Stephen the Jupiterian, our friend who is here representing, well, not representing, no pressure, but you're saying you're a gay Pisces male and you can relate. I love the Pisces male energy as well, and the bisexual in me loves the energy of Pisces male as well. And that's funny with this sort of non-gender consciousness. The non-binary aspect in me can tap into what we read in the feminine aspect of Pisces, you know. But I digress. I'm glad to be listening to you guys and checking you guys out talking about this stuff. this stuff. I sure did, Teresa. Teresa mentioned that I timed this when the sun has just come into Pisces. To be honest with you, I didn't even think about it. And I'm ecstatically blissful to have this experience. I really didn't plan that, Teresa, to be honest with you. But thank you for pointing it out. The sun just came into Pisces. It's February 19th, 2023. Wonderful, blissful, psychedelic. So, we've just heard a little bit about the extrasensory power of Pisces woman. Now, there is, of course, a downside to being so, well, impressionable. For one, Pisces can be a real follower, especially in her youth. She is easily swayed by the opinions and demands of others. The Zodiac's every woman is engineered to put on as many faces as people she meets, feeling a certain amount of expectation from each encounter. She wants to be loved universally. So, should someone so much as look at her sideways, the sensitive Pisces can easily dissolve into tears. In an effort to feel sociable, she may not be a pillar of strength when faced with the opportunity to partake of substances, in particular alcohol or drugs, which contribute to her signature desire to live, to some degree, in oblivion. Neptune's dissolution is a concept akin to the sign's association with the advent of death. The proverbial return to the primordial soup from whence one came, as befits the sign's mutable water status. Pisces female often feels a deep need to dissolve. She avoids the spotlight in her pursuits, forever bent upon preserving total anonymity. As a naturally excitable type, she may learn early on that a quick snort or two will steady her nerves, for better or worse, obviously in this case, for the worse, if they delve into something like that. Indeed, Pisces' association with the 12th house, that linked not only with withdrawal from reality, but also emotional blocks, will see the fish dropping herself into the drink more readily than not. Of course, all Pisces women and all Pisces, anyone with strong Pisces archetypes is going to have to be careful with the nature of surrender. The true nature of surrender is Shiva and Parvati, energy and awareness. Shiva being awareness. And it's very important for all Pisces women to understand that they are gifted with a body and a soul that experiences the receptive influx of existence. And in that receptive experience, you have to be the plus to your own minus and find positive, constructive ways to channel what is essentially a deliciously hair-pulling down into the bed, blissful capacities to surrender. That surrender needs to come from a place of true love that exists within all things and beyond all things. Or else you will get wrapped up into a love for specific things. And when you don't have those specific things, you are not in the ocean of desire that you want to be in, and you will chase other things to get the feeling that you're missing out on. As we're going to talk about, this is the tricky nature of romance for Pisces, especially a Pisces with a difficult sun or with difficult planets placements wherever the person might have difficulty. It's a hole in the bucket that can allow the Pisces to amplify the negative. But the squeakiest wheel gets the grease, and the reason that we have the red lights on the dashboard saying check engine is because we need to be able to acknowledge the pain and difficulty in reality, but not necessarily dwell on them. I feel like I could go on forever on that, but let's keep digging along with our script here, folks. The irony with this whole falling into the drink, falling into the surrender, is that physiologically, Pisces may be unable to tolerate even the slightest substance abuse. As the Zodiac's daughter of befuddling Neptune, she is more susceptible than many to influences of this sort. Those who have pursued paths towards some brand of enlightenment often speak of the increasing danger of introducing artificial properties into their bodies as they achieve higher and higher levels of spiritual realization. Pisces woman is born with that sort of advanced spiritual openness, one that seems to leave her that much more vulnerable to deep intoxication and even psychic, if not psychotic, episodes as a result of such usage. For me, just having Pisces sun is not going to convey all these things. But again, I'm open to what this author says about the sun in Pisces as being energy directed towards the archetype of dissolution. I understand it. But just because there's something to trip on doesn't mean every Pisces woman is going to trip on it. Again, useful to acknowledge but not to dwell on. But we shall continue. This will easily stop the fish lady from trying to get lost. So that's having these often psychic or psychotic episodes will make them be very careful of the type of things that they move through. Now, however, the profound rock bottom Pisces inevitably hits will give rise to a wholehearted new lease on life when they move through these things. Invariably, the recovered Pisces becomes a champion for spiritual wellness. Until then, however, she is generally in the business of medicating her soul, one way or another, attempting to evade the darker recesses of her subconscious mind that threaten to undo her. Now, as early as she can remember, Pisces woman is haunted by her past. Though she will undoubtedly love her mother, she views her mother as somewhat of an albatross. Typically, her mother is a pragmatist who is plagued by pessimism, if not crippling doubts and fears. And Pisces often becomes her emotional anchor. Her father, by contrast, is a carefree individualist who feels unbeholden to family life. He is sensitive, possessing the soul of the poet, but marriage doesn't much agree with him. Pisces woman's father may be a reckless or hapless character, whereas her siblings might use any laissez-faire family dynamic to overindulge their own independence, if not express abandon or rebellion. Pisces plays the goody-goody, dutiful daughter to the hilt. She represses her need for autonomy, exchanging personal will for a certain martyrdom that comes from being old reliable. Herein the seeds of resentment are sown. As a nod to her sign's association with sanctuary, Pisces leads a fairly sheltered existence by her own design. To peers, she is the proverbial priss or prude, one who prefers to stay attached to her mother's apron strings, eking out whatever attention she might from her lovably untenable father, instead of focusing on the pursuit of a social life that she truly desires. What she perceives as the best quality in her father is his soulful sensitivity, indeed his vulnerability. And it is that very ingredient she looks for first in a boy, that soulful sensitivity. She mixes with other meek types like herself and is generally attracted to namby-pamby males who eventually sexually identify as something dubious, somewhat androgynous. The Pisces woman is initially attracted to this kind of androgyne, mamby-pamby sort of boy. Pisces is the most patently unrealistic of individuals when it comes to life and love, as it is blatantly evident in the so-called romantic relationships of her youth. Still, being so sheltered, Pisces girl is rather squeamish about the opposite sex at this tender age, a sentiment that is only exacerbated by the early run-ins with at least some vague form of molestation that she sometimes and generally might encounter. It's the nature of Pisces almost being that DMT-like experience, especially of womanhood, of attracting without boundary. This is partly what is being expressed here in this book. And I hold the space with the deepest and truest love for anybody who has had that experience. Ultimately, in a lot of ways, I'm sure that happens to a lot of Pisces, and all I can say is that it is probably, in my experience, part of what makes Pisces so beautiful is the difficulties that they encounter as people so boundaryless in the way they experience themselves and the attraction ability of womanhood through the Pisces archetype. It is whatever difficult experiences they've gone through that allow them to shine the light that they do. That's just me speaking from experience of all the Pisces women that I know who have had difficult experiences. Rogue is saying she's asking for the copyright year on this book. Because Rogue is saying that there's a tendency in this book to be very general. And I agree with what Rogue is saying here. Not everybody is going to experience everything that this artist... Like, you can tell the author probably had experiences of certain Pisces women and said, this is my experience of Pisces, but he was really experiencing these specific women, and not all Pisces women are going to be like this. On the other hand, this is data for us to throw around in terms of what we can expect out of Pisces. Rogue has asked for the copyright date, and it's 2004. So thank you, Rogue, for holding down your communication of what you think is true, because it is good for us. Yes, yeah, good one, Rogue. It's good for us to have boundary. It's good for us to keep objective about the context of this text that we're reading. This is a human conveying their human experience of other Pisces humans. This is not the archetype of... that's why I love this book by Pratyush Bhattacharya, because it's more Vedic. It's more like he was just cutting out his personal take and just giving us the pure reality of the planet and the sign as archetypes. This book goes into a bit more of a poetic experience of this author's experience of it. And we have to keep that in consideration, but it doesn't mean it can't still be, I think that this book has its fun points. It's just good to be objective about that. And thank you, Rogue, for speaking up about it. Now, perhaps as a nod to Pisces' association with the 12th house concerns of hidden dangers and secret enemies, the curtained fish girl seems so unwitting that she unfortunately finds herself falling prey in some ways to lecherous types. Even the subtlest encounter may send Pisces reeling. Still, as is her nature, she will completely repress the incident often, unconsciously rendering herself that much more skittish and susceptible to emotional fragility. Not only can this be the root cause of a need to anesthetize her secret suffering in some way and give rise to the subjective sustainment of a fabricated reality. It's the fish's intricate woven net of casual lies designed to protect her from painful truths. It also determines her taste for males she feels might be harmless. Again, there's a lot here about Pisces living in her own illusions and lies and whatever, and I think that there is an incidence of this, especially when Pisces women are young. If you have a strong sun, you will find that you can sit with your reality without necessarily deluding yourself from it. And I think everybody's capable of that. In fact, especially Pisces women, because they're so emphasized on this sensitivity that causes this desire to not experience reality at its truth, they eventually over time are more capable of reflecting the mirror of reality than anybody else, because they've been sitting in the fullest experience of it since they were born. That's something that I have to convey here. And I think that this author does eventually mention this. I just have to convey it here. It's like a what goes down must come up. And for Pisces, that is true of the difficult experiences that they have. It does eventually bring an upness. And we see that the author is really discussing right now how this makes a young Pisces woman operate as a horny teenager, intermingling with other boys and other teenagers and experiencing herself. This is why she can have a taste for males that she feels might be harmless, because she's so sensitive. All through her teenage years and into her 20s, the Pisces woman will typically take up with guys who are all but noticeably lacking in the requisite testosterone to fuel their pouncing on our supposedly prissy Pisces. On one hand, she wants it this way. She cannot abide the harsh hormonal reality of a male's pressing hard on to have her. She prefers to live in a sanitized dream of what sex should be, just as she seeks to obliterate all other brutal realities in life, which she mostly avoids by sticking close to the safety and seclusion of her home, first that of her parents and then her enchanted own. One is reminded of Sally Bowles in John Van Druten's play I Am a Camera, the story upon which the musical Cabaret is based. A character with a tad of an Electra complex, like our Pisces, who thus invents for herself an entire personalized reality via the enchantment of her own imagination, a role incidentally immortalized on screen by the very fishy Liza Minnelli. As in the case of Sally Bowles, we see tragedy and exaltation cohabiting in the character of the Pisces female, for whom life really should be a cabaret. Indeed, what the Pisces woman teaches us by example is that existence is exactly what one imagines it to be. Something that lends more loaded meaning to her sign's motto, I believe. Some very psychedelic things happening in here. And of course, we're going to learn as Pisces woman grows up, they're going to be able to take the enchantment that they expect and merge it with the reality that is outside of them and make it enchanted. Unlike Pisces man, female Pisces isn't content to dream all on her own. Rather, she expects others to buy into the enchantment she creates for herself, such that all those who populate her life succumb to the mass hallucination that she is what she imagines herself to be, or that reality is what we all imagine it to be inside the enchanted space of our hearts. It's beautiful. Now, furthermore, Pisces does urge others to be all that they might wildly imagine themselves to be. In view of her motto, Pisces woman believes in others' dreams, inspiring them as a muse, coming to reflect the utter conviction that one's fantasies are capable of coming true via the strength of belief and intentions alone. After all, despite what could be perceived as self-delusion, the Pisces woman literally thinks who the hell she is. Admittedly, being the zodiacal embodiment of the primordial soup, the Pisces is predestined to imagine any and all potentialities as might emerge from her fertile power of fancy. Thus, she is the most fabulous female on the astrological block. In every sense of the word, from the marvelous to the made-up. Being a child of Neptune, planet of the wondrous, even the miraculous, Pisces is a conduit for such energy as is represented by her ruling planet. Little wonder that the Virgin Mary is her biblical archetype. The whole notion of the womb as a miraculous environment, the seat of quintessentially mutable waters, isn't lost on the symbology of the sign of Pisces. In Greek, the word for womb and fish is the same. Delphi. Wow. And as the fish, the mutable water woman is herself likened to a womb, just as in perfect paradox she represents a tomb. Both environments denoting a 12th host sense of isolation and oblivion. An in-between dream state hovering amidst the ultimate opposites of life and death. The consummate interpretation of the sign's opposite-facing fish. Whew, psychedelic. In brass tacks, being the alpha and the omega translates into the Piscean female's fancying herself the be-all, end-all of womankind. Despite her meek and meager emotional beginnings, the sometimes phenomenal myth Pisces creates about herself seeps into her very soul. Eventually, she owns the outsized persona of her own creating. Would that we were all such believers in ourselves, whether our legacy was based in fact or fiction. Two more interpretations of the opposite-facing fish that fuse into one singular reality in the Piscean female mind. Fabulous is as fabulous does, and our fishy female is the most over-the-top dame to spin around the astrological wheel. As a nod to her sign's association with death and dissolution, it's as if she approaches life with a built-in hindsight akin to the old lament, "If I had it to live all over again," making such amends automatically as she goes. She has the confidence even of her most dubious convictions, or is it a lack of self-esteem, to feel she has nothing to lose by being as extraordinary a character as she can. Either way, her diva-dom is assured. As the personification of dissolution, Pisces inevitably surrenders to life, sacrificing her humility along with the strict responsibility she imposed on herself in her youth. She is completely unbeholden to others, just as she is more reliant upon people than any other individual in the Zodiac. This is, after all, the mark of a true diva. Like Tennessee Williams's Blanche Dubois from his play A Streetcar Named Desire, the most startlingly clear portrayal of the Piscean female archetype in modern literature. The fish lady depends on the kindness of everybody, strangers included. The whole of her life is one huge, she lets herself free fall, fully believing there will always be outstretched arms to catch her. What a way to live. Lovely. I do love when they get into the way they get into these things. And what I will say about this book is that, you know, the beginning part generally tends to just be a sort of vibe, talking about the archetypes, talking about, again, it's the author sort of riffing on the archetype of Pisces and of woman. Now, I think the best part of this book is when we get into the body and soul. And also there's the sexy part that we're going to get into at the end. The body and soul is the beginning of the material manifestation of the spiritual archetype of the sun in the sign of Pisces for a woman. The body is where it all begins. It's Parvati. It's material Maya. It's the part we feel. The skin of the onion is the part that you eat, as Alan Watts says. So we are going to now slip into the body and soul of the Pisces woman. And I'll tell you that when I first read, like, really, this book actually is what got me into astrology. If you guys could believe that or not. And I want you guys to dig that, interestingly enough, I got into astrology because I wanted to disprove it. I thought this astrology stuff is bogus. All seems kind of silly. It's all in our heads. We're all in our heads about this whole thing. And so I wanted to dig into astrology in order to say for myself that I've explored it. I've explored it and I know it's crap. So I explored it. And this was the book that I explored. I explored the archetype of Scorpio man. And for everybody who knows me, I'm a Leo rising with the sun in Scorpio. So Scorpio is very richly a part of everything that I am. I also have Mars, Cazimi, with the sun. Like, they're both at 16 degrees. And I have Pluto at 20 degrees of Scorpio. So I'm very rich with the Scorpio archetype. So when I read from this book, the body and soul section that we're about to read for Scorpio, I was like, oh my God, astrology's real. Astrology's real. I'm losing my connection here a little bit. Hopefully everybody's still here with me. We're going to get some clicks and pops once in a while, folks, but it is what it is. So, we are, of course, still moving along here, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to get into the body and soul of Pisces woman. But first, I'm going to go and take a quick bathroom break. I'm just going to go take a tinkle, and then I'll come right back, okay? So thanks for hanging out with me, folks. I'll see you in just a moment. We're just about to get into some meaty stuff. Thanks for your patience. I got a piece of chocolate, too. Okay, I'll be right back. Sweet. Okay, so I'm hearing from everybody that we have some funky stuff happening. Wow, I see what you guys are talking about. Well, that's kind of inconvenient. So you guys can still hear me? and that's good. And now my cat's here. Too bad you guys are missing out on that. Oh, you're gonna ruin things. Okay, well, just give me 1 second here, ladies and gentlemen. Looks like Shiva is playing some tricks with us today. So, let's see. Looks like our bit rate is higher than our recommended bit rate. Okay, the audio is good though. Let's see. How do I change the bit rate? I don't know how to do that. Okay. Well, folks, do you think that we should just keep on rolling like we've got it here? You know, I'm going to stop recording this, but we should still be good here. Why? That is very inconvenient. Okay, but the audio is great. Well, guys, are you ready to sink into the pink and purple of Pisces woman with me? If you guys are here with me, maybe my video is going to fix itself at some point. I don't know. But it looks like we are live and we are going to keep rolling here. Gosh, I don't know. I feel like I should do something to fix this. But I don't know what. So, if you guys will just give me one moment here. I don't know if this is something that I can fix. Hello, everybody. But I don't. It's like watching TV in the 90s and... Well, you know, folks, yeah, RMA is saying that we're at a groovy, we're looking at a groovy art piece here, and we are listening to our podcast. Wow, and it does look pretty cool, doesn't it? So let's keep rolling here, folks. We're just getting into the experience of Pisces, and it looks like this. This picture that we're all seeing is some trick of Mahashivratri today. And this is what Pisces looks like on the inside, folks. I'm glad that the computer is able to express this for us. Now, if you guys are all here with me, welcome to the podcast where we're going to continue discussing the archetype of Pisces woman. Now, since we can all hear me, we are going to be discussing the body and soul of Pisces woman. Thank you all for hanging out with me as we go along, and we get to take a peek at Pisces on the inside, as my friend RMA has said. Some real Pisces magic. We are continuing our podcast on sex and the sexes and through Sextrology. We are next going to be tipping into the chapter on body and soul. Let's discuss Pisces woman through the body and the soul. Pisces woman causes a commotion without even knowing it. Though she fancies herself fairly demure and ladylike, she has the distinct ability to send those around her into a bit of a tailspin. The polite princess, on first impression, she will, for instance, drive a waiter nuts, asking for a new glass or utensils, should they be even slightly spotted, insisting on knowing every ingredient and mode of preparation of items on the menu, never seeming quite satisfied with the answers. And she orders her food and drinks with substitutions and special directives, sending her meal back if it isn't just so. And yet at that point, should her dish still not be to her liking, she'll slip into martyr mode. And she'll have one know. She'll suffer through it on the grounds of not wanting to be a bother. Too late. Perfection, according to her subjective specifications, is something of a preoccupation for Pisces, and she is constantly put off by the searing lack of it in her life. Sometimes there is just no pleasing this Pisces woman. Like Blanche Dubois, Pisces expects enchantment in every moment, but this can't help but elude her in the generally harsh light of reality. And I agree. What I'm hearing is that not every Pisces is going to be quite this demanding, especially because Pisces has a way of rolling with the flow, as we know. But let's read what our author has to say. As the Zodiac's Aphrodite, forever emerging fresh from her seashell, Pisces woman's constant reliance on others continually sees her courting disappointment, if not personal disaster. But when it works, it does so like a charm. She is forever soliciting worshippers who find themselves hard-pressed to do right by her. She is clueless as to the turmoil little old Pisces is capable of causing, couched as she must generally be in the lap of luxury, though typically at someone else's expense. If any female stops short at a door, unapologetically waiting for it to be opened, it is the fish. She truly is a muse, and as such, she must have the homage due her. In return, she grants those in her life the endless gift of inspiration. Interesting psychedelic picture of the Pisces woman. And it's true that I think Pisces does gift all those in her life with the inspiration that we are listening to here. The inspired pink and purple beneath the palette of everyone's perception. Whether they want it or not, Pisces is going to permeate the pink and purple. And we love them for it. Now, Pisces moves as if in a dream. Her body language so slow and meditative that even when undertaking arduous physical tasks, one might suspect she is continually popping Valium. One sure way to spot a Pisces woman is in the way she eats. Cutting her food into manageable little morsels, she chews each bite numerous times, placing her fork back on her plate and her hands daintily in her lap, making barely a dent in her meal by the time others have finished. She is entirely graceful in her carriage, sitting and standing erect as if toting the proverbial invisible book on her head. For all her seeming composure, however, Pisces can be inherently nervous. Her placid demeanor necessarily cultivated over the years, and her attempt to keep it together. I can understand this in terms of the Pisces. The beautiful Pisces women in my life have this sort of like, they're holding it together, they're getting it together, and they can be so funny and expressive about this energy that they discuss. Sometimes even the simplest things can set Pisces woman's teeth on edge. Social gatherings in particular bear the essentially fragile fish to an element for which she's simply not engineered. The thought of having to be on makes the Pisces feel dangerously exposed, like Blanche held under an electric light. And she really isn't much interested in hearing tell of other people's lives, loved ones accepted. Though Pisces will have few female friends, she may flaunt a best gay male pal. She will also be surrounded by people who, in one way or another, work for her, thus being paid to endure the peculiar Piscean prima donna complex. She prides herself on being a beneficent dictator, patting herself on the back for leaving a big tip or sending her housekeeper home with leftovers. What her regular waiter or cleaning lady might not realize is that they are just about all the extra familial human contact the Pisces has. It becomes very clear in analyzing the fish lady that she not only relies on the kindness of strangers, but she often does so to the exclusion of others. Now, you know, folks, the dreamy pink and purple is really quite interesting. But there is a part of me that feels like we can make a certain change here. It's higher than the recommended bit rate. I'm just poking around and seeing what this bit rate situation is like. We recommend you use a stream bit rate of 4,500. And I believe my current stream bit rate is frame rate. Workspace. Oh, well. It is what it is. I can see my computers even being a little bit kind of funky and clicky. So that is why, everybody, we are watching this crazy pink stream of things here. Now, at the expense of having everybody who's on here, you know, I'm glad that I have at least 15 people hanging out with me and watching. Now, I have a feeling that if we temporarily stop this stream and then come back on, I'm feeling like we will have our picture back on track, and I kind of want to do that. So everybody who is watching, if you are listening to my voice, we are going to not end this stream. It should still remain the same stream. So if you're watching, you might have to press restart or refresh the page, because I'm going to try and see if I can restart while still staying on the same video. Okay, everybody? So stay with me here. If you get kicked out of the video, feel free to just refresh the page. That should be all that you need to do. I thank you for your patience. Let's see if we can make... Check, check, check. Success. Looks like we might be where we want to be here, folks. Can everybody see me okay? Wonderful. Welcome, everybody. Ha! Yes! Yes! Everybody got to experience Shiva with me. Did you all enjoy the pink and purple, ladies and gentlemen? I hope you guys all enjoyed, and yeah, my cat's not here with me. I had to kick him out because he's always standing on my keyboard. MJ is asking if I have Virgo placements. I'm very Virgo. I have Jupiter and Venus in Virgo, and Venus is what's called my Atmakarka. So I consider myself to be a very Virgo person. Check, check, check. Bzz, buzz, bzz. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We have emerged from the psychedelic chrysalis of the 5-MeO DMT. We have tasted the pink and purple, and now we get to experience life with that bliss deeply instilled inside of our consciousness. So, in other words, we're back. I appreciate you all being patient with me while we went through that experiment. So hopefully if it happens again, we'll just deal with however we got to deal with it. But I am glad to be here with you folks now. Let's continue our podcast. We are still talking about the body and soul of Pisces woman. We've just talked about a bit about how Pisces can be an interesting character. They can be a little bit nitpicky in restaurants when they're out somewhere with friends because they have such a sensitivity to life. Shivoham, Shivoham, as my friend Susie says. So we've learned that the fish lady relies very strongly on the kindness of others and the kindness of strangers. And often she explores strangers so much, it is at the exclusion of those who are truly close to the Pisces. And this is something that Pisces has to move through. It's part of the nature of her energy. So what we read is that when they're called upon to be social at a party, say, the Pisces generally escapes into a corner, typically bending the ear of some unsuspecting character. She's naturally drawn to what she perceives as disenfranchised types. Though her patronizing attitude will be wholly unconscious, she latches onto whomever in the room she assumes might feel out of place the way she does. So if you see a somewhat dramatic-looking creature with the elegantly eccentric gesticulations of an aging starlet chatting up the only Eskimo, old lady, burn victim, albino, or midget in the room, it's pretty safe to assume that it's probably a Pisces girl. The fish lady doesn't so much have a conversation or recount stories as she does act them out and experience them. Pisces girl literally channels experience as a means of communication, making hyperbolic sounds, taking large intakes of startled breath, or otherwise pantomiming that which she's discussing. She doesn't so much look a person in the eyes as she does sort of inward, lost in the private reliving of even the most ordinary occurrence. Pisces' eyes are at once bulging, though slitted as the result of heavy eyelids, misted, clouded, and often drifting in different directions. When she drinks, the effect becomes that much more extreme. Even when beautiful, there is something decidedly froggy or fetal about the fish lady's appearance. I understand, and I think that's beautiful. All the Pisces I know have that sort of babyish, froggy face. That's an interesting image, and for me, it's like an alien that is beautiful. Again, I'm a Scorpio. I love you, Pisces women. So Pisces can end up looking somewhat like different people in different ways, you know, though it's typically not the case of them being that, you know, what we're reading here is that it's not often the case that Pisces are not beautiful. They usually have a strikingly delicious appearance. is the way I would kind of put it here. And we can see this by a list of famous pointy-chinned Pisces princesses, including the sweet-faced, similar-looking likes of Elizabeth Taylor, Isabel Hubbard, Charlotte Church, Thora Birch, Sid Charisse, Jennifer Jones, Claire Trevor, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Kristen Davis, Gloria Vanderbilt, Lee Radziwill, Paula Prentice, Jennifer O'Neill, Vanessa Williams, Sharon Stone, T. Leone, Patsy Kensit, Nikki Taylor, Ursula Andress, Kathy Ireland, Cindy Crawford, a lot of lovelies with more than their fair share of beauty marks. Still, many of them possess a frogginess in their gorgeous bug-eyed looks, a trait strikingly evident in the more eccentric faces of fishes, such as Liza Minnelli, inherited from her Piscean father, Vincenti, Drew Barrymore, Holly Hunter, Anna Magnani, Joanne Woodward, Jean Harlow, Sandy Duncan, Glenn Close, Nina Simone, Irene Cara, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Sally Jesse Raphael, Rue McClanahan, and the ever-enjoyable drama queen, Tammy Faye Baker. I wish I had prepared the faces of these women. It would be cool to see them along with this, but I digress. MJ is a Pisces sun woman, and I'm very glad to have you here, my dear. It's funny, I haven't thought about the fact that part of the reason why I love Pisces so much is because I'm a Scorpio, but also because I have Jupiter and Venus in Virgo. So my Jupiter falls deeply in love with the Pisces archetype. And MJ just kind of reminded me of that because MJ asked if I had Virgo placements. Now, as a nod to her opposite-facing fish symbol, the Pisces woman is often guilty of playing all sides of an argument, feigning agreement with opposition factions among friends, family, or in professional experiences. She presents such a puritanical, if not pedantic, image that one would scarcely suspect her of gossiping or backbiting. But truth be told, she's an infamous tattletale, just as she is the stealthiest of snoops. She must understand what everyone is going through and experiencing, and she experiences the urgency of drama and energy very intensely. That's why we read this. Although, again, everybody has the capacity to become mature in their deliverance of the transmission of communication. It's particularly because the sun often has Mercury and Venus in close vicinity. There's a lot of Pisces women who have a particularly difficult Mercury. The reason would be is because this Mercury being in the sign of Pisces is where it's debilitated. Especially if you have a combust Mercury debilitated in Pisces, that can be a very difficult experience. And this is where a lot of this like saying the wrong thing at the wrong time and fuck me, I'm an idiot because I am not in control of my Mercury. That's often why a lot of Pisces women have this difficult experience. I'm glad to see my friend S.A. loves me, and I love you too. I love all of you. I love all of you. I'm so glad to be here in existence, sharing myself with existence. Full of it today. Now, the Pisces woman's typically straight-laced, blue-nose appearance can be deceiving. She is, after all, one of the more sexually game girls in the Zodiac. But that's not what people see first. Pisces woman invariably presents a rather moral, virginal, if not downright uptight image, her mouth pursed, as it is, into a tense pucker, her generally pale, thin skin drawn tight in her face and throat, giving her the stringy, sinewy look of a ballet dancer, whether or not she's ever stepped into a toe shoe in her life. She is fond of wavy hairstyles, regardless of whether she wears her locks short or long, and she will rarely leave the house without at least some hint of makeup, being drawn to green-blue eyeshadows and pearlescent lip tones. Fairly hairless overall, Pisces often has a remarkable lack of eyelashes and eyebrows, necessitating the use of a liner to frame what are often unusually colored peepers: gold, bright green, cobalt blue. Indeed, only a Pisces like Elizabeth Taylor can be credited with unmistakably violet eyes. Of all the women in the Zodiac, Pisces might be called the prettiest. That is, rarely a smoldering beauty. Sorry, let me just see if I've got this right. Of all the women in the Zodiac, Pisces might be called the prettiest. That is, rarely a smoldering beauty, even when astonishingly gorgeous. So it's more pretty than smoldering beauty. I understand. But she is the prettiest, like a flower. What typically saves her boasting too perfect a doll face is a signature hooked nose, albeit button-sized, a possibly crooked beak one might bait to catch a fish. The authors of these books often are very specific about the physical traits. It's very interesting. Befitting her character, Pisces espouses a rather femmy fashion aesthetic. Drawn to muted colors, meshy or webby knits, and tapered princess-cut silhouettes. She can be new age in style, too, wearing crystals, beads, talismans for jewelry. She is generally understated in her appearance, forever determined to look like a lady. However, though she's loath to admit this to herself, the prim, indeed aristocratic persona that Pisces puts forth is just a delicate veneer begging to be shattered. Oh, I was fucking waiting for this book to finally tell me what I wanted to hear. I know what Pisces are like, and there's this veneer, and there's something so fucking raw beyond the veneer, and now they're going to start talking about it. Unclad, the Pisces woman is something special to behold. Her skin soft and dewy, her figure curvaceous though compact. Even the most Rubenesque fish, and there are some famous modern burlesque queens who leap to mind, boast so integral a form that nothing extraneous will jiggle, just such bits that are meant to neatly bump and grind. There's rarely anything even slightly boyish in her physique, even when bone thin. And always she exhibits an economy in her form, which prevents her from ever being overly bodacious in the bosom department. Even when in the rare occasion she is amply hipped, she will still glide as if on a cloud. Her private parts are as demure as her character. her bush seemingly trimmed to a whisper, while she's typically never required a single waxing in her life. Lovely. I mean, I don't mind a bit of shag carpet. I'm a 70s guy. Vanna White is a Pisces too. That's interesting to hear. My friend Rogue is back. Nice to see ya. Now, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, my beloved Pisces women, thank you for being with me. And thank you for being beautiful. And thank you for being hot. Let's just put that out there because it's so true. God damn it. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm all revved up and excited to exist. And we are going to share in my blissful discussion about Pisces woman sexuality, the erotic truth of what is the Pisces woman. Let's start dipping into it here, folks. This is spoken from me, a Scorpio sun male. And as a male, I'm reading the guts of a feminine archetype. I try to lean as best as I can into the non-gender bisexuality and the androgynous inside myself in order to tap into this archetype with respect. Because I can see beyond this visage of being a masculine male with hormones that I am existence, and so are you, my beautiful, blessed friends and people. And please understand that while I hold the space internally as the existence that is beyond the frame and form of all beingness, the consciousness, the brain, the filtering valve that is discussing this is a horny guy in his 30s who's a Scorpio. And I hope that you enjoy the intermixing of all this delicious primordial soup that we are sitting in today. Let's dig into the sex and sexuality of Pisces woman. In the mythical character of Aphrodite, we see Pisces' complicated vision of sex. The great love goddess is wedded to the divine everyman, Hephaestus, and is ardently pursued by the brutally masculine Mars, but is most enamored of the delicate boy, Adonis. Blanche Dubois' first love, too, is a rather fragile youth. Like Adonis, the tender fellow dies for the affection she heaps on him. And being rather stuck on these tender sorts, she is later run out of town for taking her teacher job too far with the juvenile male student body. Blanche's Mars equivalent is Stanley. In the play, okay, I get it. Mars is the true male archetype that she is actually wanting to deal with, but she feels more comfortable with the mamby-pamby, innocent male type typically, but she wants to see true Shiva. She is Parvati, and she wants to make love to the true energy of Shiva through Mars in this case, for whom Stanley is playing the part of Mars for Blanche Dubois' Pisces. In the play, Blanche even suspects that Stanley is an Aries, the male personification of the Mars-Aries archetype. Aphrodite's Hephaestus, whom she aims to marry, is the safe, mensch-like Mitch. Let's deconstruct. Most every Pisces woman will have a painful, if not tragic, memory of her first love for that sensitive boy, a bond that was never meant to be. Blanche's family home, the aptly named Belle Reve, symbolizes her beautiful dreams, including the Piscean delusional hope of love shared with a harmless, hormoneless boy. And the fanciful fish is forced to ditch her delusions when faced with a similarly harsh reality. The pretty boys she's attracted to in her youth are themselves often attracted to the macho men who make her bristle. Any lifelong lust for ambiguous jailbait notwithstanding, Pisces eventually realizes her own attraction to these sexy Mars beasts, too, finding herself at delicious odds with the more blatantly red-blooded males of the world, who give off a whiff of base animalism to her refined signature sensation of reality. She inherently feels that such overtly masculine types are nearly another species, altogether separate from herself. The mythical Venus and Mars, Aphrodite and Ares, are as much archetypal lovers as they are irreconcilable rivals, love and war being at once the most extreme of concepts and yet being fair, all being fair in both, metaphorically relatable and indeed combined into the love warrior character of Venus's son, Cupid. That was with a little bit of weird grammar there. The mythical Venus and Mars, Aphrodite and Ares, are as much archetypal lovers as they are irreconcilable rivals, love and war being at once the most extreme of concepts and yet all being fair in both, metaphorically relatable, and indeed combined into the love warrior character of Venus's son, Cupid. Cupid being the little angel that uses a war item, the bow, to penetrate its love that it seeks to experience from its soul in the experience of another soul external to itself through war. Psychedelic image. At least that's the Mars side of it. Again, we come up against a Pisces female paradox. She is equally attracted to and repulsed by the he-men of the world, enticed and intoxicated by their nature, and yet unable to reconcile such stereotypically male characters with her beautiful dream of life, which was never meant to include smelly sneakers or back hair. That's funny. No woman finds affront to her delicate sensibilities faster than a Pisces female. Whether her natural disposition or such airs she puts on, the real and the fabricated being one and the same for the fish. Pisces comes across as the bluest of prudish princesses. Blueness is a synonym for purity, the supposedly snow-white Blanche being costumed in Della Robbia blue, the color drawn from the gown of the Madonna, whose blue dress, fringed in white, is the ancient costume of Aphrodite Mary, representing the sea edged with foam. Wow. Dope. In fact, Pisces is so purposefully proper that this overriding trait comes to define men's attraction to the Zodiac's eternal belle, for better or for worse. First of all, this exaggeratedly comme il faut, if not holier-than-thou diva, continues to attract every worshipful homosexual male on the gaydar. Kind of including me. Thank God I'm a bisexual. And sometimes the attraction extends far beyond friendly. Many a Pisces woman won't have readily awakened from a liaison with one of her signature dream boys. having so many sensitive, decidedly female qualities in common with a man that it overrides any potential sexuality questions. We're just friends. Really, really, really good friends. Like Gemini woman, the fish might find herself in a series of marriages or serious relationships a la Blanche or Sally Bowles with closeted gay men, thinking nothing suspicious in their shared desire to regularly redecorate the soothing strains of Liza with a Z. To be fair, Pisces might purposely have opted for such a bond wherein she and an equally persnickety male can live a sexless, sequestered life. She won't be put upon to put out. For, in a sense, Pisces woman can be somewhat sexless. That is when she's not completely nymphomaniacal. The most striking paradox of this oh-so-pretty fish. It's funny because the yoga person in me understands this as well. I'm so attracted to somebody who is permeating the ecstatic bliss of sexuality, of the erotic, of the omega and the alpha between the two of us. But Pisces has a way of, you can have sex with them just by sitting and holding their hand. And that's all it needs to be. And it's just as oceanic as the rock and roll thing. And they are both important in life. That's part of one of the reasons why I get so attracted to Pisces, is because Scorpio and Pisces have this best friend energy that I just absolutely love. But anybody that gets with Pisces has to be on this sort of like, we're friends first and dissolved in the fusion of absolute one fuckery second, in my opinion. Although I'm sure for Pisces it often goes the other way. Meanwhile, the Pisces woman has her fetishes, which typically include those innocent young lads. But as she can't easily abide what she considers the sexual tyranny of heterosexual relationships, that just seems to be, the grammar is weird in these books. This daughter of Neptune is more about the special effects in life than she is about any sort of solid plot. Just as she eschews the more banal realities of her conditioning and puts on extravagant airs, so too does she not only have, but heartily enjoys, her own illusions about sex, via which she seeks to escape the grimmer dynamics of it. In brass tacks, she's easily grossed out by the actual carnal function and machinations of sex. The sweating, the odors, the emitting of fluids totally clash often with her dreamy Puritan visions. It's until she eventually begins to dissolve her vision with the reality that the reality takes on her vision, and all of that gross aspects of dense human physical embodiment can take on the delicious Amrita that exists within inside all of us, let alone within the Pisces female's consciousness. As a nod to the 12 houses association with inhibitions and isolation, Pisces is the Zodiac's very own untouchable. Some Pisces women are so vehemently squeamish about sex that when they become pregnant, friends and family who know them best are inclined to suspect some form of immaculate conception. Pisces female tends to associate sex, often inextricably linked to any inappropriate sexual contact she may have experienced in her youth, with feeling dirty. And the fish is in the business of washing away any such sins she detects in herself. Sounds to me like any such person just needs to have the experience of Tantra and the goddess, and to see that even the dirty parts of reality can be the black that makes the light that much brighter. The divine feminine is something that anyone who experiences this sort of thing ought to turn into, because then the purity that they have inside themselves can be manifested through the bodies that we all can't get away from. And that's when Pisces woman purifies the dirt and dross, and can even accept the dirt and dross. Now, we see this puritanized internal consciousness of Pisces in the characterization again of Blanche Dubois, who is forever taking her long, fragranced baths. Absolution, if not utter dissolution. Like Aphrodite, ritually renewing her virginity, a trick to which any card-carrying Pisces would appreciate knowing the secret. But it's only half the story. For Aphrodite was the original nympho, who would have had cause to renew that virginity on a regular basis. Give me that. And besides attracting every gay man within earshot of her siren's call, the enchanting, sanctimonious Pisces attracts that many straight men who view her as a top-drawer lady, a class act, a princess worthy of the royal treatment. The poor, unsuspecting suckers, like me, they don't stand a chance. Thinking the fish lady a demure female character deserving of all the finer things in life, a regular Joe might romantically approach Pisces from the perspective of her being too good for him, but by whom he will do right. Treating her like some insatiable muse, he may bankrupt his spirit, if not his bankroll, trying to elicit a passionate response to his tributes. What he typically gets in return is the luxury of calling her his own. A man who claims her is thus endowed with a status similar to one toting around some golden age starlet. Such is the statement she makes by her very presence to any and all persons with whom she comes into contact. One way or another, she'll have you know that she is special. And in scoring her as arm candy, many a man counts himself the beneficiary of some cosmic miracle. Wondering why she is so willing to give herself to a man she mightn't even love is akin to pondering why it is the ancients wedded Aphrodite, the epitome of female beauty, to the only lame and ugly god, Hephaestus. The answer? He's safe, and is so totally grateful to be linked with her that little demand will be placed on her. And this is part of what I was talking about, where as the Hephaestus in every man, regardless of what they are, there's some aspect of humanity that wants to sit in the throne of consciousness that exists beyond the physical bodies. And this is why Aphrodite got along with Hephaestus, because Hephaestus doesn't put on that air. Again, it's a psychedelic metaphor for consciousness. And this doesn't mean that a Pisces woman can't find a beautiful man like me and experience that dimension of consciousness, as well as the Aphrodite with Hephaestus, who doesn't care about the aesthetics. This is important to someone like me. I exist in both realms, to be in this world but not of it. In most cases, Pisces negotiates herself into relationships that promise sanctuary, a kind of sponsorship by a mate who functions for them both. The fish seeks to remain protected in a fishbowl of sorts, her partner sprinkling whatever she needs for sustenance, while providing those attractive accoutrements, the house, fine furnishings, and holidays that keep the muse from being bored. Sally Bowles serves as this type of muse. Sometimes there's simply no pleasing her, as the Pisces petitions for more and more comfort and stability, as opposed to outright luxury, while lifting nary a finger. And still, it is she who calls the shots. In many of these Pisces women who embody this sort of archetype. When and if, however, circumstances don't go exactly her way, Pisces is not one to abandon ship. Rather, she slips back into that martyred role she played so readily in her youth. Sighing her way through hard times, Pisces woman makes her partner feel that much more responsible for having disappointed her. Again, this buys her more personal freedom within the bond, as the least her partner can do is to leave the poor, put upon Pisces in peace. The best that could happen for all concerned is for the mouse of a mensch to act like a man and stand up to the Pisces. Invariably, the fish will find this macho display from a partner she'd happily written off as meek makes her surprisingly weak in the knees. Indeed, their relationship only survives in the wake of this man becoming less worshipful. By this same token, Pisces gradually allows herself to grasp the latent male animal lurking within this sort of mate, as he progressively inserts himself by palatable degrees. I totally understand. I've been such a feminine person in my life, and when I'm with the Pisces, you can tell that she likes that nice androgyne, feminine, not harmful. But she has this come hither to the Shiva animal inside of the male, who has that propensity to be the Mr. Nice Guy, but to grab an arm while she's on top of the bed and get on top, and to become that animal by inviting it in palatable degrees, which I think is quite nice. Indeed, the whole of Pisces' metaphorical allegory, the whole of the Pisces woman's metaphorical allergy to he-men is based on either an inbred or conditioned fear of susceptibility to their power over her. Again, this is often a result of an unfortunate liaison in her youth. Sooner or later, however, every straight Pisces woman will, in one way or another, be forced to face the natural attraction that she, as the Zodiac's uber female, feels for those more overstated males of the species. Beautiful to have it finally conveyed. You know, this book has done a lot of really milking the whole thing of Pisces' desire to experience a harmless man. And this often puts pressure on the man to be or experience themselves as harmless and to convey that to the woman. And the Pisces woman, at some level, eventually experiences the plus and the minus of Parvati and Shiva, experiences herself as the minus of Parvati, and to embrace openly the plus of the Shiva inside of the man that she is with. And hopefully it will be a man who can nobly hold the space for her minus and for that feminine that she seeks in herself and her partner. I'm just poking at our chat here. I'm glad that Rogue's ex-husband is still okay after what you've said he experienced, Rogue. I'm very happy to see that, and that you're experiencing and expressing love for it. Now, just as a gay man might find Pisces the perfect icon, and the regular Joe will see her as a sort of step up, the self-possessed, ego-driven alpha male views Pisces as grade A pussy that needs to be taken down a peg. Any Piscean partnership with a man less eminently masculine than she is, feminine, is bound to be precariously lopsided. So any Piscean partnership with a man less eminently masculine than she is feminine is bound to be precariously lopsided. There is such a mental and indeed psychic gulf between her and a proverbial man's man that it's no easy task to fuse the two, except on the level of physical attraction, where it all begins. Part and parcel of Pisces' prim properness is her signature repression of sexual energy. Taking again Blanche Dubois as an example, she is as repulsed by Stanley's base behavior as she is betrayed by her innate attraction to him. Every Pisces female, no matter how many homo or henpecked husbands she hides behind, is fairly itching to play Lady Chatterley to some raw and hunky gameskeeper. In the case of the bath and booze-happy Blanche, eventually raped by Stanley, she suffers a nervous breakdown so severe that it sends her, at play's end, bundled up in Della Robbia blue to the funny farm. Remember that profound Piscean rock bottom. Fuck, this book is hard sometimes. And yet, according to Gord Vidal in his autobiographical Palimpsest, Tennessee Williams claimed that Blanche experiences a full recovery and reclaims her diva status by opening New Orleans' premier dress shop. Thank God. Stanley's right rogering shatters Blanche's illusions, allowing her to surface a real, productive character. She, like all Pisces women, finds her true self-esteem, which has been repressed along with past pain and fear. It's kind of a crazy thing the way these people are describing it in this book. I would say it was not any... The author mentions, a good screw isn't the only key to Pisces females' well-being. And I think it's important to say that the sexual experience by taking on that other man's male energy caused the Pisces person, Blanche Dubois, to experience energy at its purest. And all of us would be well served to open ourselves to the nature and the essentially inherently benevolent nature of consciousness and energy as it is. Because if you can open yourself to the catharsis of what reality is beyond the filtering valve of your brain, then you can abide by even the most difficult experiences. And I think that that's what this is conveying here. So a good screw isn't the only key to a Pisces female's well-being. The sexy mama aspect of herself doesn't miraculously replace the virginal Madonna or the psychic wise woman. These two of her three faces keep her more latent libidinous tendencies in check, even when they surface with a startling vengeance. The message isn't that the Piscean Blanche truly needs a beastly Stanley in order to find happiness. Au contraire. Despite the perks of being poked by a straightforward male sexual figure, such a rough and ready guy is, ironically, not nearly truly man enough for her. A relationship with so singularly macho a character tends to be an explosive match, wherein the love bond does remarkably take on the dynamics of war. Nope. The Zodiac's triple goddess incarnate needs a far more well-rounded male than that. And this is truly what the Pisces woman seeks. In that tripartite aspect of her consciousness, she seeks the hormoneless, hapless boy. She seeks the animalistic, hormonal man. And she seeks a divinely incarnated sage, really, like we all do at some level. But, you know, the crony Pisces woman, the crony inside the Pisces woman, also seeks for an old consciousness that is seen beyond all the waves and can still be in the waves, can still be a baby, can still be a hormonal masculine man, and to see beyond it all in those moments when the Pisces is not in a place to experience the younger spectrums, but is that crony. She needs a man who can sit there with him, with her in that experience. Though the trident is a symbol of the triple goddess, it is clearly a phallic one. Wielded by male gods, the Hindu Shiva, Trifulmgid, Tre Okier, the shamrock god in Celtic Ireland, Poseidon, and Hades in Greece, as well as the demonized Christian devil who begot the Antichrist upon the medieval Blanchefleur, the lily maid, whose symbol is the fleur de lis, a symbol of the yoni, trident-like in form. The trident, the triplicity, represents the triple penis, the exact endowment required to mate with each aspect of the Pisces threefold goddess, all in one go. Cool. Likewise, to avoid disappointment, Pisces needs a partner who is a combination of all three aspects of manhood that have heretofore appealed to her various needs. As anybody who has ever had a relationship with a Pisces will concur, she can be the most demanding and least easily satisfied of women. Whether it is her archetypal nature that dictates this quality, or her nature that gives rise to comparisons with the threefold cognate goddess, is a conundrum. And it's a conundrum akin to the familiar chicken or egg, alpha or omega dilemma. Pisces' perfect mate, therefore, is 1/3 male love object, 1/3 humble provider, and 1/3 masculine beast. A man must hold the three-pronged key to accessing her multifarious affections. He needs to be emotionally sensitive, materially servicing, and sexually virile. She neither requires a man of whom she can take control, nor one who will do the controlling. Rather, the Pisces gives a man charge of the relationship, unwilling as she is to take on such a role herself. All responsibility is delegated to him, but it must be clear that it is hers to entrust in the first place. Even in this most perfect and thus rare relationship scenario, the Pisces will still seek to dissolve into the protection of the bond. With his triple prong key, her man is the ultimate gatekeeper, entrusted with the duty of keeping the world at bay. Not to say that Pisces might not hold down a job or otherwise interact with people, though in many cases she won't. It's just that being a Pisces woman is alone a full-time occupation. She is thoroughly preoccupied with herself, not to mention how well or not she is being treated by others. You know, so much of this has to be taken in with the rising sign in context and the moon sign. You know, this makes for so many different types of variations on this Pisces woman experience. But I digress. It's something I have to occasionally say with this book because it's so specific to this author's experience of Pisces woman. The Pisces woman's partner comes under the most direct scrutiny, expected as he is to display the kind of respect due a virtuous Madonna, to express the sort of sexual desire any sacred harlot would require, and to afford her the brand of material comfort she deserves, laid out in her dainty Pisces-ruled feet, at her Pisces-ruled feet. And yet her mate might find all this still quite won't be enough. Although just because nothing will ever be enough doesn't mean that everything is not enough. We have to understand this about the Pisces character. They're very similar to Virgo, in that anything and everything could always be better, but that doesn't make it any less perfect to a Pisces who understands their own energy. I know this very well from Virgo, because Virgo and Pisces are on the same axis. My current girlfriend is a beloved Virgo, and I often have this experience with her as well. The experience of somebody who is willing to move through the imperfection of the world because they are perfect inside themselves. Now, the unsuspecting fellow who falls for the fish always gets more than he bargained for, which generally becomes apparent in short order. For someone who seems so untouchable and hard to get, she expects the bond to become almost instantly serious. Indeed, Pisces typically moves from one major relationship to another in search of her Mr. Right. In the meantime, craving the confines of even a troublesome bond on which she can depend. Right. When she happens upon a man who fits her unconscious criteria as the perfect mate, she wastes no time securing the love connection, often not being above using sex as a means for cementing a man's interest. She needs so full of a man's attention as to border on obsession. This is evidenced by her nearly maniacal jealous streak, one fueled by her infamously wild imagination. Although again, if you understand that you are perfect love inside yourself, your imagination can go anywhere and it will all be seen as love, especially if you make the love happen with a love partner who reflects the love that you are, and you agree upon it and it all works out. Then whatever goes on in your imagination is just your imagination. This book has a way of saying that this person's going to be a jealous type of person, etc. So much of that it can only be conveyed by other things in the chart. Keep that in mind. Now, of course, In suspecting her mate is taking up with every floozy that crosses his path, there is an element of the pot calling the kettle black. I understand. Pisces may stop at nothing if she spies a prime mate, and his marital status is of little consequence. Dissolving as she does into every experience, the sexually seasoned Pisces, who has had her illusions gloriously shattered more than a few times, will be extra compliant when it comes to a man's demands in the bedroom, or any other room in the house for that matter. This is particularly true when it comes to negotiating herself into a new relationship. In fact, she may pull out the whore card when she feels she has to. Providing a guy with a profound sexual experience is the quickest way she knows of putting a man under her enchanting spell. Indeed, no woman can sweep a man off his feet or often out of his marriage faster than the fish girl. She is one female other women are loath to find themselves faced off with in a love triangle because she is always victorious. Like Aphrodite at the judgment of Paris, she knows what men want more than wisdom or worldly power, the best lay imaginable by the most feminine female they can find. Damn, I understand. Although I wouldn't say that, again, this book paints this whole psychedelic Neptune dissolving all boundaries thing is what it is. You can rest in the dissolving boundarylessness of Pisces and of a DMT psychedelic experience and still abide by the love that accepts boundary, because there is love in the individuation, because that individuation of boundary, of other people's marriage, of everything is what makes love what it is. There wouldn't be there wouldn't be me without you. There wouldn't be I without other. And the dissolvingness of that is a beautiful part of Pisces. But just because they have that dissolving tendency doesn't mean that every Pisces woman is going to act on this Neptunian thing. I think our author is taking that a little far. But I understand it. I understand it at the level that it's being conveyed here. So it's one of those things where I got to kind of go back and forth on that. Cool. And, oftentimes this is just the nature of people meeting in the way. Pisces makes the connect, sees the whole thing, experiences the whole thing, and tries the pie while she buys. Nowhere is the Pisces' paradoxical nature more evident than in her sexual behavior. For such a subjectively fueled creature, sex, something meant to be so personal an experience, is probably the one thing in life towards which she is ultimately wholly objective. Rarely will her urges be so pressing as to rule her, something that even a prolific Pisces such as Anais Nin seems to escape in her multitude of experience. Indeed, Pisces enjoys eroticism, even in the form of a dime store novel, generally endowed with a talent for exteriorizing sex herself, whether it be in her own writing or in her blatant exploration of the subject in what is otherwise meant to be polite conversation. Whew. That dynamic follows her into the bedroom. She is open to activities that might make other women's hair curl. She isn't so much passive or even receptive as she is susceptible to the desires of her partner. It's as if she needs nothing more or less than what's needed of her by her man. She is utterly available in the moment, willing to comply with a partner's penchant for sexually going around the world, open to any and all oral or anal activities with equal nonchalance. Pisces is not necessarily a passionate lover, any pleasure seeming to take her unawares. On the other hand, she never quite loses her untainted and innocent vision of what sex should be, more likely than not fantasizing about some underage stud with peach fuzz on his lip when left alone to her own masturbatory devices. Between sexual bouts, she seems to regrow her own pure virgin vision, a bubble that is continually burst, much to her astonished delight. She simply never expects to enjoy the depths of sexual delight or debauch as much as she actually does, and her partner must be prepared to encounter her unfathomable source of pleasurable participation. This is certainly where the he-man aspect of a mate must make itself known, for once Pisces gets started, she won't expect to be stopped anytime soon. This is part of something that I see in this book, is that like for every plus, there's also a minus behind it. And all this things about Pisces being behind the visage of material reality and in the existential consciousness beyond it, when they tap into their body and their body becomes the ocean of bliss, they find themselves being so glad for the experience of being pulled out of their anticipation of what sex was supposed to be, of what life was supposed to be. They are so glad to be taken by the ocean of their own engagement with the energy of being human. Now, Pisces isn't particularly active in the sack, remaining the passive recipient is in great part from whence her gratification stems. I was cold now, and I'm kind of like not as cold, thankfully. Remaining the passive recipient is in great part from whence Pisces' gratification stems. Her particular proclivities, aside from the norm, tend to include being plundered in one way or another. The proverbial victim of love, she might easily be persuaded to engage in a bit of bondage if, and only if, it is with a trusted partner. As it is, even when Pisces has celebrated a golden wedding anniversary, her mate will always remain somewhat a stranger to her, and she to him. She is never one to discuss her internal workings with a man. She'd sooner do so in group therapy or in a 12-step program. There must remain a line between the sexes whereby she is allowed to stew in the juices of her own imagination, whether pursuing a solo creative yearning or simply alternating her days between good books, good naps, and a few good nips in the evening. When it comes to spending time with her partner, she generally gives all her attention and energy to listening to his worldly workings, issues, and problems, and offering him her sage consideration and counsel. It's the same with sex. It's all about him, as she is most likely to get off on a man indulging himself with, in, and all over her. She wants to be confronted with a guy's lust far more than she wants to share in some mutual expression session. Sex should take Pisces to the limit, whether it be via straight-up intercourse aimed at continually breaking her record for the most orgasms had in a single night, or by the playing out of a man's sexual fantasies, particularly those that involve imposing control over the ecstatically floundering fish. Submissive fantasies abound, as do any such activities where she is prone to elicit as much of a man's dominant nature as possible. And then there's that kindness of strangers dynamic that, in more cases she'd care to admit, drives the Pisces in search of a steady stream of one-night stands or no-strings booty calls. The personals' sex ads and their online equivalents, where women are doubtless the minority placing notices, while the majority of said minority is comprised of this most wanton of signs. Very interesting. While in a long-term relationship, the unerring desire to please her man, it's really an unconscious guise for satisfying herself, will come to a screeching halt at the mere mention of lesbian play for her partner's benefit. So this is the part where we are going to start talking a little bit about the lesbian and gay bisexual Pisces woman, although there's still a little bit of the psyche of the Pisces woman in general interspersed throughout. And you guys can all hang out with me as we go along with this. If you've gotten all you needed as a straight Pisces woman, I bless you and thank you for watching this with us. But hang out with us if you feel like it, because there's still ecstatic bliss to be had. The bisexual in me always really digs this part. Now, Pisces is loath to introduce another woman into the sexual mix, as being often too jealous of and competitive with other females, she wouldn't generally be able to bear her man's attention directed at somebody else. After all, she works harder than most at even indulging her guy's most outrageous demands. She's not about to then see her allure and his appreciation diluted by a guest appearance by some auxiliary TNA. Really, this is not even necessarily lesbian Pisces. This is a Pisces being with a man, talking about polyamory. That's really what this section is discussing. Truth be told, most Pisces women have a sapphic side that points at a double standard where same-sex contact is concerned. Despite being a magnet for gay men, the fish typically finds the notion of gay male sex rather repulsive, and she would be especially hard on a mate who is prone to switch hitting. But when it comes to girl gayness, she is most forgiving, to say the least. To generalize wildly, it seems that a large proportion of Pisces women possess a latent lesbianism. Often, Pisces is blatantly bisexual and makes no bones about it. Many a straight and even married Pisces woman has gay fantasies, not to mention girl friendships that border on flirtation. Indeed, even when she doesn't have such feelings, Pisces will be surrounded by a bunch of lesbian cronies. She may be the honorary dyke amongst them. As her personal demons are faced over time, Pisces loses herself less and less in substances and immerses herself more and more into a self-help milieu that inevitably leads to her helping others. Yay! This gives rise to her involvement in charitable causes and public welfare concerns in general. A positive manifestation of Piscean dissolution, wherein she gives herself over to selfless deeds and profound service to others. Straight or gay, she increasingly associates with people who are on similar tracks, owning up to themselves and clearing away their subconscious cobwebs. As a result, she may encounter men and women with issues surrounding addiction. Forming friendships with these individuals is de rigueur for the fish, and that many of these bonds are based on a code of anonymity is perfectly in keeping with her sign's association with secrecy and isolation. Bonds with other women are generally formed on the basis and theme of the female societal condition. When it comes to feelings and concerns about being a woman, including the topic of sexual relations between ladies, Pisces doesn't bat an eye. In accordance with the eternal paradox that is Pisces woman, there is no glitch between the beliefs or behaviors of those who identify as gay or straight, most considering themselves to be bi. It would mean as little to any heterosexual Pisces woman to admit gay tendencies as it would to a lesbian fish to exit a long-term relationship and find herself falling into something serious with a man. Where sexual preference is concerned, she is, in a word, fishy. Her modus operandi changes little whether involved with a man or a woman. She wants to be coddled and catered to. Though she's drawn to strong women who possess qualities Pisces finds enviable, worship goes right out the window by the time she and a lover hit the sheets. There, it's the same old story. She wants to be done for, pretty much shying away from any substantial form of reciprocation. Despite how orgasmic activity might be for the Pisces in the privacy of her own home, her lesbian relationships might appear rather sexless to the public eye. Indeed, with the bedroom out of sight, out of mind for the fish, her gay bonds smack of a sort of nunnish, monastic life. Relationships are a kind of sisterhood, based on mutual betterment and shot through with shared spiritual aspirations. Still, Pisces will play the homebody, planning and cooking meals while her lover willingly takes on the breadwinner role. The fish flourishes in situations where she can make her partner proud. Should her lover invite friends around, Pisces will always pride herself on furnishing the most elegant of gatherings, understated and unladen by ceremony, always marked by a quality of creating memories as befits this eternally creative creature, in whose company one feels blessed with the ability to take part in some epic unfolding of life, the way it was meant to be lived. The world of the Pisces woman truly feels enchanted, as if existing outside of time, and those in her presence gain the sense of escaping the banalities of life that typically threaten to plague them. Wonderful. That's how I ended up thinking that this whole conversation was going to end and ought to go and ought to end. I could totally see it being the Pisces woman. You know, this book is funny because it tries to see everything in contrasting light, in a clear light. And a lot of the times they do a lot of generalization that I don't necessarily feel in myself necessarily always needs to be the case as they describe it. But it's cool to move through the ideas of all these signs. It's cool to move through the ideas of Pisces through the imagination of these artists, Starsky and Cox, a man and a woman who both can play into the bisexual consciousness, obviously. And I am so glad to be able to have discussed Pisces woman with you all. For all you Pisces lovers and all you lovers of Pisces, from this excitable, horny, universe-loving Scorpio, from my heart to yours, thank you for being my love, and thank you for being my love. This has been a real pleasure to hang out with you guys and talk with you guys about this. I'm just in such a shuddering Maha-Shavarastri mood that I feel it was very cool that on the first day of Pisces that we got to have this conversation and to talk about it in this way. So thank you, everybody, for hanging out with me today. MJ, Airlair, Sleepy Fish, Rogue Reemerged, Susie Underwood. We had Teresa on here. We had Arctura. My friend Rogue, as I said, and MJ. And SA was here expressing some love. LH was here as well, which is cool. Stephen the Jupiterian. All of you guys are a part of the blanket of bliss that makes up my existence. And I'm thankful for you. I found that a lot of the times this book can get into some meaty stuff. And I feel like I wish there was, I feel like, I don't know, what do you guys think? Like maybe they played a little bit too much on the possible dour aspects of Pisces. Because it seems to me that the authors here, again, they have their experience of what Pisces is. I don't know. Maybe I'm just, the Leo in me likes to be an optimist. And I think that, I love the idea of an optimistic expression of this energy. So if I was to put it in my own words, in my own hands, it'd be similar to what I've already been saying. Parvati as the eternal goddess who's minding the store before the Big Bang happened. The great ecstatic goddess inside of Pisces, inside of all of us, lives very deeply and truly in Pisces as an experiencer of things to the deepest level of experience. This is a difficult thing to wield because you have to try to engage Shiva while you're in the deliciousness of consciousness falling with gravity to earth. But the richness of the experience of the Pisces has the capacity to express the enchantment that we read at the very end of things, where the Pisces enchants every aspect of life for those that they get, for those who they are with, and for those who are blessed to be with them. And in my experience and my understanding of Pisces, there is such again, I'm somebody who takes more of Pisces being ruled by Jupiter than Neptune. That's part of the reason why, in my experience, I think the authors of this book conveyed it a little too Neptune. I'd love to hear what you guys think. I'd love to hear if you guys are with me in the sense that ultimately the sun in the sign of Pisces, I mean, again, we're not considering the rising sign. We're not considering the moon sign. Keep that in mind when we read this particular book. But that being said, we still learned a lot about the blockages that a Pisces woman does have to go through. And it's good for a book like this. The Leo and rising in me likes to know what all the obstructions are. It's also, I guess, my Venus in Virgo and Jupiter in Virgo. I like to know what the obstructions are And then I like to sit in the rapture of consciousness and see that we can move through those obstructions and be the bliss that is inside of it all. And in my experience, Pisces is a blessing to be and to be around. Just like all signs can have the experience of being plus or minus, up or down, holy or unholy, evolved soul or unevolved soul. We're all moving through it. And I'm glad to have shared how juicy and sexy Pisces can be when revved up to the truest expression of her sexuality that she can be. It can be such a submissive energy, experiencing in that sort of docile way their deep richness of the nature of the partner with whom they're having sex and making love. And in that energy, especially for anyone who has an energy, not necessarily a male, but Shiva, for the Shiva inside of the Pisces' partner, to be gifted the embrace of the Pisces partner's not only love for it, but ecstatic, hot, blistering, sexual, erotic connection to what the Shiva is in that person. It's truly a gift for both. Anyway, I could go on and on about this, folks. As you can see, I've been in the consciousness of this pretty hard. And I'm glad overall to have hung out with you guys. I love you all. Have an excellent day. Happy Pisces season. Thanks to everybody for showing up. Stay tuned. Every week I'm going to try to be on here and talking about more fun things with you all. I've been doing a lot of things about, the tropical sidereal debate. And I've been doing a lot of astronomical stuff. That's why I wanted to have today, to just sort of relax and have a fun, chill out day. And we're going to do more of these. We've got more rising sign videos coming along in the future. But for now, I'm glad to have hung out with you guys and done this one. Keep your eyes peeled. Every Sunday, 11 a.m., we've got more stuff happening. Thank you very much for watching with me. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this blessed, God-given Sunday.